and welcome to the show. I'm James, that's Katie, and that makes this episode 52 of the Circles and Squares PlayStation podcast. And it's a special, unique episode here, Kate, because today we are going to be going over and making a brand new combined top 25 video games of all time list. An exercise we did for the first time back on our 25th episode, fittingly. So we're not quite lining up numerically on this one with 52, but we did our best, and we're back. How are you, Kate? Welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I've been stressing about this list. It was hard enough the first time, and now there's just more games I've played. And I cannot tell you the amount of times I've looked at that list and be like, I'm just gonna swap these orders a little bit. And then I'll look at it like, yeah, okay, I'm perfect, I'm happy. And then I'll look at it like an hour later, it's like, oh, but you know what? I can actually move this. And
I know. I've been
it's
doing the
so
same thing,
hard.
making my own list, and it's just been like, at a certain point, it's like, does 15 really, is it really different than 16? Not really, but for some reason, you just like to see, like, this game has to be above this game, right? Like, I just love it
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, it's just kind of like somewhat arbitrary comparisons of two games that really have nothing in common, and you're trying to do your best.
Exactly. Kate, before we do any of our lists, we just got to run through a tiny bit of housekeeping for everyone out there. First of all, we need to acknowledge this is a bit of a weird schedule for us. Listeners will know we always have episodes every Monday, but my apologies. It was my schedule got kind of twisted around. We couldn't quite record on time. So here we are. This episode will be out. I believe you'll be listening to it on Tuesday, which means we're going to have a bit of a strange schedule for the rest of the week. There's a lot of rumors going around about PlayStation revealing Spartacus and the whole PlayStation Plus rebrand going on this week. So whatever day that happens, we're going to do our very best to come out with a bonus episode talking all about that, which will be our missing news show. And then on this Sunday, we're going to go back as normal and record episode 53 of the Circles and Squares podcast, which should come out on the regular time on Monday next week, thus returning us to normal. I think that made sense,
Orders
right, Kate? That was
restored.
good?
Yeah, order restored, that sounds
Orders
good.
restored, yeah. Everything's good. One other thing for housekeeping as well is just this episode in particular, I would like to urge everyone, if you can, to watch it on video format, just because we are going to be doing a big tier list of games, and it just is a lot to talk about with words, and we'll do our best to make it as clear as possible. But obviously, visual aids will be here on YouTube or Spotify if you're watching the video format over there, which we would recommend if you can. So without further ado, Kate, let's get into our list. And before we start this year's list, I think you just had a little recap of our top 25 from previously.
Yeah, so I think I've got the top 10 here. I think if you really want to see the full list, I would recommend going back to episode 25 because I think it was a fun one.
It was.
It definitely feels like an old one these days, considering
We've come a long
our
way since then,
we've come a long way. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. We've grown a lot. So it's an older episode, but I think it's a fun one. But our top 10 going from 10 up to our number one combined game. This is actually kind of interesting. So only 5 of the top 10 games did we both have on our lists, and then 5 were unique to one of us.
Okay,
So we went number 10 is Bloodborne, which I'm so glad I
right.
managed to just squeak it out. And then we had number 9, Hades, number 8, Telltale's The Walking Dead, specifically the first season. We had number 7, Banner Saga 2, number 6, The Last of Us. And then getting into top 5 territory, I somehow managed number 5 to argue Sekiro in there.
Somehow, some way, somehow.
Some way, somehow, I'm gonna do it again. And then we had number 4, Ghost of Tsushima. Number 3, God of War 2018. Number 2 was Divinity Original Sin 2. And number 1 was actually your number
It
1 from
was.
the list as
And see, this
well.
is
You got
why I can't really
super
complain too
lucky.
much about anything else. And
Exactly.
I like that list. It's from a lot of the
It
games we
was,
talk about on the
yeah.
show. It's a good
I know
list.
you didn't let me say what it was.
Oh shit, I thought you already said it.
No. I
I'm so
mean,
far ahead of myself.
everyone had yeah, you're so in your own head. Everyone had their best guess of what it was. I mean, it's obvious.
It's
It's Persona 5.
obviously,
Yeah,
see,
what else
doesn't even
could it
have to
have
be
been?
said. I guess I just skipped ahead
Um
because it's just so clear that that's the best game ever made that it precedes
well,
itself.
in case you didn't see it coming, it was Persona 5. Um, but yeah, overall, a pretty decent list. I would play the vast majority of those games, I
That's a
think.
ringing endorsement from Kate right there. A
Yeah.
vast majority.
Yeah, they're all pretty decent at the very least.
Right. Exactly. Well, let's hope this list turns out the same way. So we'll get started here. I think what we're going to do, or I know what we're going to do, is Kate and I will briefly just show you guys our own lists, and we're going to combine them and go from there. So enjoy.
Mhm.
Let's move this out of the way. Look at this great high fidelity, like wonderful presentation we have going on.
Oh, behind the
Behind the curtain,
curtain.
behind the gray box, we have my top 25 games. Apologies, it's a little small, maybe unreadable, but I promise when we get to the main thing, it'll be better. But going from 25 up on to number 1, I will read them in reverse order. So number 25, I have Cuphead. Number 24, Fire Emblem on Game Boy Advance. Number 23, Rocket League. Number 22, God of War 2. Number 21, Red Dead Redemption. Number 20, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Number 19, Spider-Man Miles Morales. Number 18, Phoenix Wright Trials and Tribulations. Number 17, Ghost of Tsushima. 16, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. Number 15, Persona 4 Golden. 14, Portal. 13, Apex Legends. 12, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, which is a bit cheating because there's like tons of campaigns, but it's one game. Number 11, Bloodborne. Number 10, Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair. Number 9, A Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. Number 8, Mass Effect 2. Number 7, Heavy Rain. Number 6, Pokemon Heart Gold. Number 5, The Last of Us Remastered. Number 4, Telltale's The Walking Dead, specifically the first season because they are individual games. Number 3, Paper Mario. Number 2, God of War. And number 1, Persona 5 The Royal.
Interesting. So your top couple games have not changed, if I remember correctly, from
No,
last
that
year.
they have changed in the sense that, so my rules, I guess, just to go over how I make
Mhm.
my list is I do my best not to repeat series if I can. I do have 2 Persona games as you can see on the list, but 4 and 5 they're so wildly different. I kind of was like,
Mhm.
this is not really a sequel. The only other list I really have is I try to only include games that I've beaten on my list just because I don't like to be too influenced. Like I really had a problem last time when I made my list with Final Fantasy VII Remake because I was in the middle of playing it and really liking it. But sometimes you get like, oh my god, I love this game so much, but then you sort of come
Mhm.
off of it and your opinion changes. So I try to avoid too much of that, but obviously like there's certain exceptions to be made sometimes. And
Okay.
yeah, that's my list.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid list. Did you have any honorable mentions that didn't
I
quite
do
make
have a
it, but
whole
you would
lot
have
of honorable
loved?
mentions. Yeah, I mean, I've
Okay.
got a whole 50 that I make for myself. I mean, I can read you down to 30 just quick. I have Final Fantasy X, one of my favorite
Mhm.
original RPGs. Like, it really got me into that genre. I really loved it on the PS2. Slay the Spire is a game at 27 that
Slay the Spire.
I mean, it's so addicting. Like, we've talked about it ad
So
nauseum,
addicting.
but it just couldn't quite make the 25. And then I have stuff like
Mhm.
Metroid Dread, which I really like, but it's not quite the upper tier. Um, our favorite Final Fantasy Tactics slipped out, Kate. I don't know if it's still on your
Oh,
list. I'm interested to see, but it's number
no,
30.
it also slipped.
Rest in peace, Final Fantasy Tactics.
Rest
But
in peace.
yeah, and of curiosity to you, I guess the last one I'll mention is Elden Ring is in my top 50 games. I was saying I usually like to put games that are ones that I've beaten.
Yeah.
So because it's new, also I couldn't bring it any higher than that. But I can tell you, I'm still really
Mhm.
liking it. I think it will finish ultimately higher on my list. But right now, it's only at 40 out of 50 because of those criteria. So
Okay.
yeah,
That's fair. I respect that. Now my list is gonna be interesting comparison because
yeah.
I gave myself slightly varied rules.
Let
There
me
are,
reveal
I
it right now for
believe
our listeners as you
ooh, I
talk.
believe there are 2 games, on here or sorry, there are 3 games on here that I've actually not beaten,
Okay. But that's
which
fine.
is
I mean, that's just
interesting.
my criteria, right?
But yeah, the one rule I kind of imposed on myself was that, it has to be, like, a video game, like, entity first, so that was mostly a rule so I could eliminate Wordle. Not to put Wordle on this
I would
list.
totally have respected you if you'd shoved Wordle on here. That would have been
Yeah, well,
incredible.
I just 25 is not enough. 25
It's
is a
not.
problem. It's nowhere near enough. So anything I can eliminate by like some weird technicality is just helping me
Exactly.
out. So sorry,
Exactly.
Wordle, like number one in my heart, but not on my
Yeah.
list.
And that's a good point you just said right there. It's something to just say. I know we'll probably say it a few times throughout the show, but it's like 25 top 25 ever. Like we've played hundreds of games.
Yeah,
These games, even the ones that come in last place or that don't even make the cutoff of these lists, are still great, and they're by no means are bad at all. It's just there's only
yeah,
25 spots, and that's it.
ex- exactly. It is restrictive intentionally. And so then the other rule I gave myself was no, like if something's a direct sequel, I'm only going to list one of them.
Okay.
So, like, games from the same developers and they're similar, that's fine, but games that are, like, a direct sequel, like, for example,
Yeah.
like, Banner Saga is obviously coming up here, It's a trilogy. You're meant to play it that way. They're directly feed into each other, so only once here. Again, that just saves so much space, so you don't have to have like, oh, I have 5 series,
Exactly.
and that's it.
Exactly.
Um, but anyway, yeah, my honorable mentions will definitely be Oblivion, um, for Elder Scrolls because that was such a big game when I played it, and it's got that nostalgia factor, but just isn't quite going toe to toe with the current games I have. Tactics Advance obviously is always going to
Shout
be a
out.
cherished game. It doesn't quite make it. And then I wanted to also give a shout out to Heavy Rain because
Mm-hmm.
while I absolutely adore Heavy Rain, it's kind of been supplanted by a spiritual successor that I hope
Right.
will go to the top for Heavy Rain's sake as well. Um, but yeah, so I've got maybe surprisingly at 25, Ghosts of Tsushima. It fell quite a bit, but it's still on the list.
Yep.
And then we've got Disco Elysium, Journey, Portal, The Witness, Persona 5, Plague Tale, and Innocence, Death's Door, Fury, Bioshock, The Last of Us Remastered, Undertale, Papers, Please, God of War 2018, Demon Souls, and then for the
Mm-hmm.
top 10, Hades, Detroit Become Human, Returnal, Hollow Knight, Banner Saga 2, Divinity, Original Sin 2, Dark Souls 1, and of course 3 in brackets because it's a sequel.
Yep.
Um, number 3, Elden Ring. Number 2, Bloodborne. And of course, number 1 has to be Sekiro.
Of course it has to be.
Yeah.
Interesting. One thing I forgot to mention about my list, and it's very clear looking at yours, and I should mention this right now too, is my list is formulated based on also a little bit of how much I enjoyed each game, if it really meant something to me at the time. Like if I had
Mhm.
never played Paper Mario now, I don't think it would be on my top 25, but it's also like at the time of release, it meant a lot to me. So that's
Yeah.
something I kind of factor in seemingly a little bit more than
That
you do.
that's fair. Like, I definitely considered it. I think I went on, like, 3
Hmm.
categories, and, like, we didn't talk about this beforehand,
Yeah,
so, like,
yeah,
there is that, like,
yeah.
bias of how we both wanna organize our list, but for me, the top most important thing was, like, emotional connection.
Hmm.
How much do I care and, like, how invested am I in this game?
Right.
Um, and, like, how much it means to me personally. So nostalgia, like, comes into it a little bit there,
I
potentially.
Yeah. I think that
Number
what's
2
interesting. Oh no, go
mm.
ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I was gonna say, yeah, number 2 is just how fun I think the game is,
Yeah,
and then number 3 was just, like, the overall quality I thought of the game.
sure.
But I think just looking at my list, I just don't think I'm a very nostalgic person in
Yeah,
general, maybe, and
and
so,
I want to
like
qualify what I said too
yeah.
is like I'm trying my best not to rank on nostalgia because
Mhm.
I'm if it was nostalgia I would put Pokemon Red at the top. Like that's the
Of
means so
course,
much.
yeah.
It's impact upon the time of playing it as well. Like
Mhm.
like and that's got to really outweigh it because I think most of the newer games on the list are better than most of the old games because we learn from old design and get better. But
Mhm.
then there's certain ones like Mass Effect 2 was so meaningful back in the day. It's like it's still to me 8 or what whatever. It doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
Any final words on your list
Um,
or
let's
we get
just
to
hope.
combine?
Oh, I'm stressed, let's go.
Okay, so what can we see here that's the same? Let's put so Persona 5 Royal. I
So we have
originally
Persona
noticed.
5 Royal
Do you mind if
is
I just
on the
put
list.
Royal because you've not played it,
Yeah,
but
put Royal, like, I know Royal's
it's the
better,
same.
so
Okay.
that's fine.
Bloodborne,
Yeah, so P5 Royal, Bloodborne.
obviously
Bloodborne,
both.
which give you a nice little bullet point
Um,
for everyone.
and if you're crossing out on the other list too, right? Oh yeah,
Yeah. Where's my
video
arm?
listeners, go to Twitter, or
Oh, go
non-video
to
listeners, go
Twitter.
to Twitter.
Yeah, or video listeners too, because this is actually very difficult to get in the frame. Go to
Yep.
Twitter for a nice little Bloodborne surprise. May the good blood has guided my way, you could say, and my arm is getting progressively itchier.
Yeah. All right. So I've made
Yeah,
a
yeah,
list so far.
Bloodborne.
God of War 2018, Last of Us Remastered,
Yeah,
um,
Bloodborne, Portal,
Portal. Yeah. Glad to
Ghost.
see Portal on yours. Ghost of Tsushima.
Absolutely, Ghost of Tsushima, and then I put 2 as, like, kind of,
Yeah.
um they're not on my list, but, like, both Cuphead and Danganronpa 2 are, like, honorable mentions for me or, like, games I considered,
Okay. But they're not on
so
your list. That's the thing. It's up to
they're
me if I
not on
want to
my
choose
list.
those or other
That's
games
true.
because we got to argue about these now. So by my
True.
count, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games that both of us have on our list. So that would leave
Right. We had
19.
And we had 8 last time, so
We had
we
8,
have diversified
right? Because
slightly.
I think we both dumped off Final Fantasy,
Yep.
and
I dumped
then
off Phoenix Wright
yeah,
and Heavy
interesting.
Rain.
Yeah,
So
and Paper
it was
Mario. Did you even
and
have that?
you
I
dumped
don't know.
off I never had it, and you dumped off Hades.
I did dump off Hades, didn't I? Yeah,
Mhm, you did.
begrudgingly, but
I will
begrudgingly.
remember this.
Oh, I could remember a few things about your list, but I'm gonna choose not to.
Alright, alright, alright,
Okay, okay.
alright. I'll save it, I'll
All right.
save
So
it.
we have yeah, 6 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means we have 19 games left to to figure out. So
Mhm.
do you want to just take turns putting games from our own lists to get up there,
Um,
or how
well,
do
I
you want to do
think,
it?
like I
Or can
mean, but
we?
where is it gonna be a perfect 50-50 of
No, I mean it
everybody's
can't be.
list?
It's a
Probably not,
25.
right? I think we
So
should put some games on there that, like we should comb each other's lists and maybe pick out some games that, like, we would have liked to have
oh,
put on ours,
that's a
because
great
that's
idea.
probably,
That's a
like, a
great idea.
high aggregate of our, like,
Okay, so
consensus,
I'll
right?
nominate one from yours. I would love to
Okay.
nominate that we put Hades on there because as much as it didn't
Yeah.
make my top 25, I like that game a lot and it
Yeah.
deserves it.
Hades is wonderful. Okay, I wanna do the same then for you with Danganronpa,
Oh,
because
nice.
those games are so weird, but so
Yeah.
special.
Okay, cool. And I'm gonna put Goodbye Despair just because that's
Yeah, that was the one I'd put too, actually, I
okay,
think,
cool.
if I had to.
What else can I put from your list that I really like? I am a huge fan of hmm. Well, you know what? I'm gonna do
Elden
you a
Ring.
solid here. I'm gonna give you Elden Ring
Yes, give me Elden
because I know
Ring.
you're gonna pick it for yourself anyway,
Yep,
and I'm, like I said, really enjoying it. Nothing against it at all, except for
I
horrible
it's
accessibility
just
features.
it's just
Anyway,
a smart
it's a
pick.
great pick. Anyway, go ahead.
Um, I think I'll also give you Cuphead, as I said
Sick. Okay,
before.
I thought so.
It was an honorable mention for me.
I will be honest with the listeners here that I actually had Cuphead at 26 before we recorded. I swapped it up to 25 in place of Final Fantasy X because I knew it would be
Oh.
easier to argue Cuphead to get in over that.
You're you're not wrong. Final Fantasy X was getting
It
nowhere
was
with
gaming
me.
it. I was gaming it.
Yeah, it was a
Um,
big, big, big game remove on that
yeah,
one.
yeah. All right, what else can I give for you? Hmm. I'm getting a little tough on here because I've not played some of these other ones you've put in. I don't personally love Journey the way a lot of people do. Um,
Okay, I
I don't have
understand. People
Bioshock on
around
mine, but
them.
I will give you Bioshock. I really like that game a lot.
Okay, yeah, Bioshock is, like, kind of a cornerstone game as well.
Okay, yeah. Why don't you do one more of mine and then we'll start maybe pick our own lists.
Okay, I am kind of torn. I wanna give you Heavy Rain,
Yeah,
but I think personally that Detroit Become Human is
it
just
is interesting, isn't it?
it's better than Heavy Rain.
Yeah,
And so,
it is.
have you
It is
played
better.
Detroit? It's
I've played
better.
Detroit. Yeah, I beat Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Detroit is a better playing game. Like it mechanically and everything is better. But I just personally found that when you play it for the first time, not knowing anything about the game,
Yeah,
Heavy Rain is such a goat
that's
experience.
true. That's true. Oh, fuck, why is Heavy Rain not on my
So
list? Put it on, put it on, put Heavy Rain on. I need to retroactively fix this.
okay,
It's so good.
all right. Uh, so we got here 1, 2, 3, 4,
But
5,
I
6. 1,
just wanna
2, 3.
say that doesn't mean that Detroit can't be
No,
on
of
the
course not. Of course not. I'm just
list.
saying that it's like
Yeah.
you had a good suggestion though. So we have 12 games here now.
Oh my god,
So
that's
now
so limiting
I
already.
know. So now, if you don't mind, I would like to personally suggest a few of my own
Okay.
that I would like to be on no matter what, no matter how much you could possibly hate them with all your guts. That they need to be on the list. Okay,
Okay.
let's just pick some of those for ourselves. Because for me,
Okay.
I'm gonna skip down. I'm going from the top of my list. Right, Persona 5 already on there. God of War already on there. Paper Mario. You know what? I'm gonna sacrifice it, Kate. It's my third
Yeah?
game, but I just know you're not gonna put it anywhere near the top because of the way your list is formed. And so for that
Mhm.
reason, Telltale's Walking Dead might also be a very difficult push to get up to the top because also we have other
Telltale's
games.
Walking Dead did do well last
It
time. It
did.
came in at 8,
It
but the
did.
competition is
The
stiffer this
competition's
year.
stiffer, and I feel like we also already have some games like Danganronpa and like, maybe that's the only one right now, but they're kind of Detroit, they're kind of the same thing.
Mhm.
So I feel like no matter what, I absolutely have to have Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons on.
You know what? That is fair. I respect that game a hell of a lot, and Joseph Ferris is You know, whatever your opinion is of him as a person, he is a mastermind
Well,
when it comes to game
and
creation.
and we can say that about the joke of a company that makes Detroit and Heavy Rain as well, with all their bigoted, horrible opinions. Fuck all the people that work there, but they make some games that we really enjoy. So I mean, we just gotta get that off the list too. Anyways, Joseph Ferris, great dude, love him. Anyways, what do you want to nominate for yourself?
Sekiro, put Sekiro
Mhm.
on there. I can't not do it, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Sekiro,
Every
sorry,
bone in my body says it has to be on this list.
my blood, my blood.
No,
Okay,
no, Bloodborne's there too, don't worry.
yeah,
We can have both.
okay, let's see. Do I want to nominate Persona 4? Do I like it enough? Um,
I enjoyed Persona 4. I didn't finish it, but I was
I
enjoying it.
You know what I'm surprised not to see on your list, Kate, is Red Dead Redemption.
You know what? I adore Red Dead Redemption, and I love Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's just that's the cutthroatness of
It is. Um,
25.
it is. It is. I'm gonna put See, Mass Effect 2 is another one. You're not gonna give that any love. So
I just
I'm trying to be
no.
strategic. Um, I'm gonna put Miles Morales though. I really like the Spider-Man
Okay,
games.
that's
Has to be on
fair.
there.
That's one of those games that's, like, on my list, but I don't
Hmm.
think it'll ever get high enough for me to actually
Right,
play
right,
it.
right.
Um, you enjoyed the Banner Saga,
I
right?
did. I
And
quite like the Banner Saga.
Divinity?
Quite like the Banner Saga.
Yeah, if you were gonna put Divinity or the Banner Saga, which one would you go for?
Banner Saga.
Okay, throw Banner Saga on there.
Okay. The Banner Saga. I feel like there is potential for Divinity to be high, but I have not played very much since we started, and it's
Mhm.
very dense and complicated, and
It
I'm
is,
sure it's kind of like how I feel about Disco Elysium. Like it's a great game,
mhm.
but it's like, oh my god, you got to be ready
You
to
have to
play
be
it.
committed to playing that game, absolutely. You
Hmm.
can't just casually, like, once a week sit down for 2 hours. They
That's
are,
it.
like
That's
they
exactly it.
take over your life or nothing, like,
Exactly.
there's
Yeah. Um.
that's why Disco's so low. I think when I beat it, it'll
Right. Right.
skyrocket, but,
That's how I'm
like, for
feeling too.
now,
I'm.
it's an
I'm.
exposure thing.
Disco didn't even make my top 50, but it's a game I could see being in the top 10 once I've played it, and if I really end up being like,
Mhm.
wow, that was like such a cool. Speaking
Yeah.
of cool experiences, I'm gonna put from my own list Phoenix Wright on there, but gotta make it.
Ugh, I'd argue and say Danganronpa is just better
Would you?
Phoenix
You know
Wright.
what? You're right. You're right.
And that
That's why Phoenix Wright dropped so much. Originally, Phoenix
yeah,
Wright was very high up on my personal list, but it's been
yeah.
supplanted.
They're good games, it's just
Yeah,
I get more out of Danganronpa,
same
I
here.
think, and they're so
You've
similar.
talked me out of it. I'm gonna put hmm, what's another one? I'm gonna put I'm gonna go Persona 4 Golden. It's a great
Okay.
game.
Okay, okay, it might be tough to have 2
Wait,
personas
wait,
on
wait, wait,
here,
wait.
no,
Oh, you
that's
can't get that argument out against me.
okay.
You know what? I'm gonna replace
All
that.
of
Actually, I'm gonna put
those are different.
Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth
Okay, Digimon Cyber Sleuth.
is a
Amazing,
fantastic.
aside from if you don't have that one type for that one enemy that can't be killed
I
by
know.
anything other than piercing moves.
Yeah, I know.
Rip on that.
No, you know what? I'm flipping
Let's
back. Persona 4 Golden. It's a
okay,
better game.
okay, okay.
Don't mind me.
That's that's tough.
What's going on with my
How many games does that leave us at?
um?
6?
Gonna have to find out what's
Um,
going on here with.
12, 17. Okay, it's really narrowing. I have to throw Hollow Knight on
Okay,
here, and I know you've played some, and I know you know that it can be an amazing
it's a
game.
good game. It's one of those that I just haven't played a lot of, and I think I
Mhm,
probably don't love it as much as people love it, but I still think it's really good.
mhm. Just
Um,
everything about the quality of that game,
yeah.
considering it's made by 2 people, is outrageous. Like, Hollow Knight is higher quality than half the games on these
Oh
combined
yeah, I
lists,
would
and
say
it's made
so.
by 2 people. It's insane.
Is Hollow Knight 2 words?
It is, yeah.
Okay, cool. We're hanging out on this podcast. This
He
is
is
like so informal.
no worries, yeah, he is a knight that is hollow. Hollow Knight is not
One,
actually
two,
his
three.
name, fun fact. Hollow is an adjective of the knight. So, fun
That's pretty
fact that
cool.
you've learned today, yeah.
So we have 7 spots left. Do you want to do like nominate one more from each of our lists, then 2 more from our own lists, and then we'll have to figure out a last game somehow?
Okay,
Okay.
um,
Oh, I've got a fun idea. How about this? Let's do our own nominations from our own list first to make it even more difficult for the person to pick one last game from each other's list.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so one more from
All
my
right.
list. I'm throwing Returnal on there.
Okay, nice. And I'm gonna throw a shooter as well. I'm gonna put Apex Legends on
Okay.
myself. Um,
Okay.
okay. What's your last nomination? You got one more
From my
from
own
your own
personal
list.
list? You know what? It's gonna sound crazy, but please put Papers, Please on this list.
All right.
Papers, Please
I
is
love
the
Papers,
ultimate,
Please.
like, game is art, and, like, it's just such an emotional roller coaster.
It's a great game. There's actually a similar game
Okay.
on Game Pass I should tell you about after this. Not played it,
Okay.
but my last game will be. Hmm, this is tough. I'm gonna put the original Fire Emblem.
Okay. Okay, that's a nostalgia pick I can get on board with.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And so now we just need one more game that we can both agree is on the list here.
Okay. I have a couple suggestions.
Okay.
So there's Divinity
Yeah.
because you see the value in that game and it is really high up. And I just like to point out that I didn't even try to argue for Dark Souls because I know that you'd be upset about there being too many FromSoft games. So I'm going to ignore Dark Souls and say
Well,
maybe
mm,
Divinity.
see, I guess so,
Um,
but at the same time, I didn't argue for Paper Mario or Telltale's Walking Dead or Pokemon Heart Gold, which are all in my top
okay,
6.
so that is also a argument, but I'm just gonna breeze past that really
Yeah,
quickly
yeah,
and say
yeah.
Detroit
Detroit's a
because
strong
we
contender because
both
I like that
liked
game a
that
lot.
game.
Um,
And as a final one, I would also say from my list that Plague Tale could maybe go on there because we
mm,
also both enjoyed that game.
yeah,
But
I
maybe
have a
Detroit is
weird.
stronger.
I feel like a Detroit's a stronger one for you, and I'm down to go with Detroit because I did like it, like you
Mhm.
said. I've got one other crazy suggestion, which maybe you'd be
Okay.
down for. It's a little wild that we go with Disco Elysium because although it wasn't even in my top games, I see so much
Yeah.
potential in that game being amazing that I would be willing to put it on the list if we can agree right now that it starts off at number 25.
I am gonna break the heart of my dear friend Connor, who just wants me to play Disco Elysium more than anything else in the world and decline your offer, but
Okay.
with the counter offer that we're gonna make this list again at some point.
Yeah, of course we are.
And
Of
it is
course.
our yearly challenge to both of us, if you remember correctly from our betting that we did. It's our yearly
Yep.
challenge. We both have to return to disco. And so I
Return to the
say
disco.
yeah, we're going to a disco. I say we don't give disco the pity 25 spot. What we do is we both make good on our promise. We beat or at least play a decent amount of Disco Elysium this year so that next year when the list is recreated, disco is going to hit the top 10 as it rightly deserves.
I like that idea a lot. Let's do it.
Mhm.
Detroit's on the list, and
Detroit's on the list.
so I believe our
Yes.
final 25, if we're counting correctly, in no particular order because they're not in order yet. Persona
Yeah.
5 Royal, Bloodborne, God of War 2018, The Last of Us Remastered, Portal, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair, Elden Ring, Cuphead, Bioshock, Heavy Rain, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, Sekiro, Miles Morales, The Banner Saga 2, Persona 4 Golden, Hollow Knight, Returnal, Apex Legends, Papers, Please, Fire Emblem, and Detroit Become Human.
Think
Is that
that is
25? Let's do it.
23. I
Is
think
that
we might be
23?
dumb and that's 23.
Oh, this happened last time too, I'm pretty sure.
No,
This is how you can
no, this is
tell.
good.
Like I
This
said, we're
is
doing it
so
live.
much this
Let me
is
just
so
count them.
much
1,
better
2,
than,
3,
like,
4,
having too many, though.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3. You're right. We both get one last game to
Yes!
put on the
Okay, so
list.
we can just both pull a game from our list then.
That's right. Sounds amicable. What do
Yeah,
you want to
okay.
put as your nomination?
Give me Divinity. Give me
Divinity?
Divinity.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Dark Souls. I love you so fucking much, but for the sake of variety, it's Divinity.
And for mine, I'm going to go with a couple good choices here. A couple good choices. Um, I'm gonna put a game that you really should play, and only because it's very unique from the rest. I'm gonna put Shovel Knight Treasure Trove.
You know what? I've played a little bit of Shovel Knight. I've played maybe, like, half an hour on a plane,
Yeah,
and I really enjoyed it, and I think
it's
it's an
super fun.
amazing game and value, but I'm just not a huge platformer,
Hmm, hmm.
so
Well, we'll talk about that when we're ranking the games because now it's time to do so. as we magically just go woo. As for visual
Woo!
listeners, they'll see the woo effect on this.
Oh, woo effect.
All right, after that great wow effect, we're back. We're here. It's time to start ranking these games, Kate. So let's do it. What is the best way to start this list? Is there a game that we think we could put at the bottom and agree
Yeah,
upon that?
I think last time we kind of did some bottom picks first, and I
Yeah,
think that was easier because there's definitely some things on here that are like not our personal picks or personal like
right.
best picks, and the other person isn't really as into. Like, I would say something like maybe uh
Uh,
Fire
Geez, this is
Emblem
getting
or
hard. Yeah,
like
Fire. I mean, Fire Emblem's one it was on my list, but it's one for both of us. I would definitely
yeah.
say though it kind of squeaked on near the end, so I would definitely put it in the tier of like bottom
Mhm.
3 or 5 or whatever. I think um I think we need to make a choice if we're gonna back um Heavy Rain or Detroit all the way. Like to me, those games are a little bit like they're on there, but they're kind of competing with each other. Are we really going to get both of them to the top? Like I could see an argument for one of the two of those sort of in this bottom sort of
Despite
tier.
despite not even having Heavy Rain on my list, I want both of them to go the full distance.
You okay, okay,
Like,
that's fine.
but
We're
you
just
know what?
tossing names. We're just
Yeah,
tossing
you know
names
what?
out.
They can maybe be like I would put them mid tier because we both are really into them. Like
Sure.
I would put the lower tier stuff, like even if we both love it, like Shovel Knight, like I know it's a good game, but
Mhm,
like
mhm.
I haven't played it and I'm probably not going to.
Right.
And like you
Right,
could
right,
say
right.
that probably about like, you
I've
know, like
actually played quite a bit of the stuff that
you
you've got
have
on this now
played a
actually.
decent amount.
This is interesting because I feel like I've definitely played a lot more of the stuff you've put than the other way around, which
Yeah,
makes
I
it
feel like
tough. Like for me, I would put this is where I would personally put. I know it's sacrilege to you, but
you put
Divinity
Sekiro
Original
down
Sin,
here. Oh,
Divinity,
gosh.
because
Okay.
I've barely played any Divinity myself, and you only just squeaked it on at the end there, like not even,
I
in the
mean,
nick of time.
sure, just squeaked it
So,
on. It was a
well,
tactical choice. It's
sure,
my
sure,
number 5
but I
game.
mean, it's the yeah,
Yeah.
I know it is, I know, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just it's the argument of I haven't played
Or
it if
now,
you're not.
what about we put something like Cuphead as well could go
Mhm,
lower
mhm.
because, like, it was actually at the bottom of your
It was, yeah,
list.
and like I said, I actually cheated to get it on there. I actually would be
Yeah.
down if you wanna put Cuphead at 25 for all the amazing art style that it has and,
I
like,
would
the
put Cuphead above Fire Emblem and give
would you?
Cuphead 24,
Pretty simple.
personally.
Just suggest my 2 of my games to go 25, 24 off the start. That's fine with me, okay. I'm actually down for that. I'm just
Oh,
I'm
no.
being funny.
I'm gonna pay
No, no,
for
no,
this
'cause
later.
there's a ranking though too, because agreeing to
Yeah.
put 2 games at 25, 24 is not doesn't hold as much weight as, like, higher up,
Yeah, and
so
it
that's fine.
can be adjusted for sure.
Yeah, but I think Cuphead's a good pick because it's something we both played recently. We both like it obviously quite a bit to be in consideration for this. Amazing art
Yeah.
style, challenging bosses, great progression. I had a great time with Cuphead. We
Mhm,
recently talked about on the show, and so I think it's deserving there. That's fine. Can put it there for
mhm.
now. And Fire, and
It
I'm
can
even down
also
to put Fire Emblem too because I know, and it's another one. Like I'm joking, it's on my list, but you've probably played more Fire Emblem than I have, and I
Yep.
think the reason I picked this one over, I originally had the Two Fates or not Two Fates.
The
What's the
3
one?
houses?
Three? No, no, no. The 3DS one on there, that Awakening. I
Oh,
originally had
Awakening,
that
yeah.
on my list last time, and I totally just kind of really lowered that. And for some reason, this is the Fire Emblem that I felt needed to go on most, just because that original pixel art is so nice, and that those
Mhm.
critical hit animations, I'll never get over how
Yeah.
beautiful those.
I have always said, and I'll defend this until either I die or they finally make a pretty Fire Emblem game, but, like, the OG Game Boy ones look so much better than 3 houses, and, like,
Yeah, they do.
going away from that 2D pixel art, I think was a big mistake.
Mhm.
Like, okay, maybe it's not as good for your dating sim, but, like, that's not what
Hey,
I'm
that's
playing Fire Emblem for. Like, yeah.
it's definitely still Fire Emblem more than dating sim. I know what you
Mhm.
mean. It's
Yeah.
I know what you mean. The original one's the way to go. So. Okay, so if we have those 24, 23, we want to update our little secret list.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah.
25, 24. What are we going to put at
Is
23?
that
Now,
order now? Fire Emblem higher than Cuphead?
I think so. I think so.
Okay,
For now, for now. If you're going to be my 2 games, I'll pick the order.
okay, that's fair.
And 23 now, we got to make another choice. Now, I think I think that we're gonna have to put something from your, because I don't think it's fair in any capacity on this list to have 3 in a row from one person.
Okay, I will agree with that. However, I would like to point out that Danganronpa and
Oh, do I
Cuphead,
have more? I guess at the start
you
because
have
we.
more
Mm,
because Danganronpa and Cuphead were not actually on my
right.
list, but I gave them the
Okay.
freebies
Okay.
of being like shared
That's
games.
true. That's true. Okay. Well, Cuphead's
So,
already come 25th, so that's
yeah.
gone. That's last place. Danganronpa,
Yeah.
I will concede. So you can keep that in your back pocket for later as a bargaining chip
Mhm.
if you'd
Oh,
like.
I will. I
Well,
absolutely
it's
will.
not a huge bargaining chip, but
Well, anything helps, anything helps.
anything helps. Okay, so what are you thinking? Like, if you had to pick your least favorite game of yours that made our list here, what would it be?
Oh my god, that's so hard. I would say potentially Bioshock
Okay,
or,
we should scratch these out somehow.
yeah, I would say maybe Bioshock or maybe Portal? Although I know Portal is a shared one, so it's a little trickier, but
Yeah.
I
Well,
would.
Bioshock as well, though. I mean, it's on my extended list, and I really liked it. I think I would
Mhm.
put, if you're debating between those two, like, my feeling would be to put Bioshock down here. I think Portal
Okay,
is probably better. I mean,
okay.
they're very good, both of them, obviously. I don't know. I think Portal Age is a bit better as well. Like Bioshock, if you go back and play the
Yeah,
original now, it's a little bit like not amazing control wise, even though the
yeah, I
atmosphere is still
imagine
great.
that stuff might be a little bit dated. I just think when I think of BioShock, I think of, like, a man chooses, a
Yes,
slave obeys, and just, like,
sure.
how well the story hits, and, like, the atmosphere and the setting is one of the coolest settings in any game, and, like, that'll never get topped.
Totally agree with you.
But, 23, it's keep in consideration, is still a very favorable spot to
It is.
be
It is. And
on
it's
this
a
list,
great
right?
game, honestly. Like BioShock, I think it's one of those games I'm glad people still talk about because it's sort of, I mean, it's an old game now. I think it came out in what, like 2009, and it still is
Mhm.
routinely talked about as like, wow, there's a great twist in this game, and it was really cool mechanically, and the whole world of Rapture is so awesome. Like I
Yeah.
genuinely really enjoyed playing BioShock, and I played it like 2 years ago. It wasn't even like it
Mhm.
was recent, so it's a good game. Um,
Yeah, and
definitely.
what's funny to me is BioShock, like, even though it's been, like, probably at least, like, maybe 7, maybe 8 years since I've played it, that
Yeah.
to me is, like, one of my like, that and Portal are my nostalgia picks. Like, I
Right.
don't really have
Right.
tons of nostalgia picks from, like, being a kid, but I
Yeah.
have
Of
a lot of nostalgia picks of, like, you can be nostalgic for something that happened, like, 6 years ago.
course you
That's
can.
still,
Yeah.
like, distance and past and, like, fond memories and, like, formative kind of gaming experiences, so
Yeah.
BioShock's one of those for sure.
Totally. Um. Okay. So I'm getting the sense that we don't each of us have a lot that we'd like to be too much lower than this. So is there something?
Yeah.
Can we propose like some sort of like we both sacrifice
Could
something
do a
here?
swap, or we could swap. I could say, like, "You know what? I played Persona 4 Golden, and I liked it,
Hmm.
but, like, I didn't beat it, and I'm not in love with the game."
Okay. Yeah, I would be down to have Persona 4 down here. I'm obviously pushing Persona 5 like
Mhm,
very high, so I'm willing to kind of lay Persona 4 on its sword a little bit. But I
mhm.
would like obviously something to come down with it. Now I'm not going to push
Okay.
for I'm going to acknowledge I don't love Persona 4 in the way you love something like Sekiro. So as much
Mhm.
as I would like Sekiro to be 25, I would I will not suggest it now, but I will need you to
Right.
sacrifice something potentially like Divinity again
Oh.
because it wasn't
Yeah,
originally going to be here if we already were at 25, and
right.
out of all the other games that you have on this list that you really love, I've at least played quite a bit more than I played of Divinity.
That's fair. I think the ironic part about that is you like Divinity more than you like Sekiro.
It's true, but I'm willing to give it
Um
more of the time of day because I've played more of Sekiro and I know you love it just like even that little bit more than Divinity.
That's true. If Divinity
But
is a 30 out of 30 to me,
mhm,
which is how
right,
I kind of like on my scale of 3 points I looked at, Divinity was a 30 out of 30.
nice.
Sekiro was a 31. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
It
now
hurts
but
my heart,
there
but
is
yeah.
a debate here though. Like if you wanted to be strategic and say you will
Mhm.
get me Sekiro down here, that will obviously help you get other Souls games up.
I'm too stubborn, I can't do
Okay.
it.
All right.
I just can't do
Okay.
it.
Divinity
They
Divinity
made
it
a
is then.
game for me, you don't understand, they made a game for
Okay.
me.
Uh,
To FromSoft, Love Katie, Under the Christmas Tree, and it was
Gotcha.
Sekiro.
Okay. All right. You know what? I will put these two together then. I'll even put Persona 4 Golden below.
You are,
A
you are either
gentleman and a
kind
scholar,
you're
yeah.
either, yeah, a gentleman and scholar, or you're waiting for something later.
Um, Divinity.
Yeah, DOS. Oh, his Divinity's fallen a little bit. Although,
It
you know
has.
what? Like, it was number 2 in our list last year, although
Yeah.
I think I pushed for it harder
I think
because
you
I
did
was
too.
very recently coming off of a playthrough.
Right. And that's what I mean is like it's interesting to do this in a different context because your opinion even on
Yeah,
things you played have changed, let alone having played more games and more of the same games and more
yeah,
different games.
Divinity definitely hasn't gone down, but I don't know.
In the context of
Maybe
your
it's
list, no, but in the context of
yeah.
our combined list, things have changed quite a bit.
Mhm.
Um, how do you feel about I'm gonna propose potentially putting Portal here because
Okay.
it's a game that we both enjoy and
Mhm.
obviously is very loved in the industry in general. It's a great puzzle game. It's very unique, especially for its time. And even now, there's really nothing that does what Portal does in terms of puzzles. The momentum was just so much fun. You remember you drop off like those really
Yep.
high ramps and like fling yourself down and build up the momentum
Yep.
and like fly across. Like such a good time. And there's the whole companion cube joke and the cake being a lie. It's a great game,
Mhm.
but this in the same way that Bioshock is just that little bit like dated. I feel like Portal is in the same category.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever say, like, Portal can be dated just because of what it is, but
Hmm.
I agree that it can go in 20, like, it's kind of one of their it's there as, like, an influential and memorable experience almost as much as a
Exactly, yeah.
game.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
like a
I love the
moment in
idea of
gaming
Portal.
history.
Yeah, moment
Yeah.
in history, but if I was to sit down and play it, maybe it wouldn't be, you know, something's
Yeah,
gotta be
like,
20,
these
right?
exactly. Something's gotta be 20, and that's pretty damn good, so way to
Mhm.
go, Portal.
But we gotta
Yeah, I'm on it.
gonna get confused. Okay, so now we're at 19. Maybe we should shift gears a little bit, and maybe we could both nominate a few of our games that were like, this is gonna be something we're gonna put away for later, just to
Yeah.
cull some names off the
Okay,
list, you know?
call it, like, yeah, to the top, you mean?
Yeah,
Like,
like cull them, like just
forever?
get them to the top, put them for
Okay.
later, put them away for
I'm gonna
later.
say, that
But
we've got
let's really make sure of the
well,
ones we want.
I think we can be confident that God of War
Mhm.
and, um well, God of War is gonna be at the top because we both put it very high up on our
Exactly.
list.
I think it's gonna
So
go
I
up.
think that's, like, the one that is super safe.
Mhm. I think so too. And the other one I think that's super safe for being quite high is actually Elden Ring because I
Yeah.
know you're gonna push super high for it, and I like it. I actually think Bloodborne's in the same conversation,
Yes, yes, push
which means
Bloodborne,
something
let's
about
go.
Sekiro. But
Oh.
okay, let's
If
let's put
I
it
can
this way,
have
Kate. I'll make
yeah.
you a
No, no,
deal right now.
that's
If
okay.
we're
Okay.
like how high do you want Bloodborne and Sekiro and Elden Ring? Like, what are your realistic expectations for those three on this list?
1, 2, 3. No, not that. I think that as much as it pains me to say so, and I'll never truly be able to sleep at night, I think that Elden Ring and Bloodborne have to be higher than Sekiro because as much as Sekiro is my favorite one, I kind of go back and forth between it and Bloodborne from time to
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Like Bloodborne is so incredibly close to being one versus Sekiro. And then I'm extremely caught up in the Elden Ring hype right now, and it is like blowing my mind on a daily basis. So I'm happy for those to be higher because I know that you prefer them
Right.
to Sekiro, and that means that Sekiro is like on the list. But as a conglomeration of both of us, I understand Sekiro isn't
Right.
gonna be number one.
Okay. Because I'm really willing to entertain a deal here.
Mhm.
Sitting at the bottom sort of is out of the way.
Mhm.
And I'm prepared to argue quite heavily against having all these games quite high. But as someone that loves Bloodborne, I will guarantee right now,
Oh.
Bloodborne to make it into the top 3
That's all I've ever
if
wanted.
Sekiro can be, or it could be number 1, like, it really well could be, because I do love
It really
Bloodborne.
well could
Like,
be.
the lowest Bloodborne could possibly be is 3.
Okay. Yeah,
If
yeah, that looks
Sekiro can be
really nice.
19 right now. And then Elden Ring falls where it may among our debate.
Okay, please hold for my existential crisis,
Okay.
and I'm gonna give you a counterpoint.
Okay.
I will put Sekiro at 18.
Okay.
And I think that is a really big drop because to go from number 1 to 18 is
Mhm.
devastating. But I will not stand to have Sekiro beaten by, Shovel Knight.
You
And
got it
it's
out for
not that
Shovel Knight.
Shovel
Ooh.
Knight it's not that I don't have it out for Shovel Knight, it's
Okay.
just Shovel Knight is of the things on your list, the game I played and just didn't have any desire to go
Gotcha.
back to.
Okay. You know what?
So
I can see that argument because I could say the same thing for Sekiro. And I have
mhm.
all the respect in the world for, I mean, I've heard you talk about it so much on this show about like just how those mechanics are so finely tuned and they're so perfect for people that are looking for that experience. And I
Mhm.
can totally see it. And the visuals are amazing and the world is kick ass and the way your arm has those mechanisms on it, like it's
Yeah.
so cool. I just couldn't get down with playing it. I found it just not my type of thing. And
Yeah, and that's
yeah,
exactly how I feel about Shovel Knight because I'm like, I'm so impressed by the presentation of that game, like, the amount of content they've thrown into it is incredible, like, I have nothing but respect for Yacht Club, and I'm so excited for what they're coming out with
Nina the
next,
Hollower. Can't wait.
but, it's just not my kinda game,
Yeah,
and
fair
I
enough.
guess I'd put Apex Legends in that, category as well, although
Yeah.
I did enjoy playing Apex more than I enjoyed playing Shovel Knight.
Yeah, well, I think Apex has it going for it. Like, it's one of those games that even if you're not huge into it, you could be like, "Oh, my friends are playing this night, and we're gonna have a beer or something. This is gonna be fun."
Yeah, exactly, like, it's a social game, and, like, if friends got into it and wanted to play, like, I would not be opposed. But I
Exactly.
also, like, didn't I had a couple games like that are, like, my social games, but I didn't wanna put them on because, like, it's not the merit of the game itself,
Exactly.
it's, like, the excuse of hanging out with
Well,
my
I
friends.
mean, that's why I didn't put Rocket League, right? Like, I really enjoy Rocket
Mhm.
League too, but Apex is legit like the best feeling shooter I've
Apex
ever
is
played. Like, the mechanics are amazing.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's why I put it
Apex
there.
feels fantastic, I
Mhm.
agree. I agree,
Okay,
and when you
so
get a Mozambique in your hand and you just get to go nuts, like,
oh
oh.
man, oh man, that's how I can tell you haven't played too much of that game because ain't nobody talks about the Mozambique that way.
No, I know. That's why I remember it because when I first started playing the game, it was new, and the Mozambique was, like, the one gun that was considered, like, by far the shittest gun, and so,
Yeah.
like, you just play, and, like, no matter who you were playing with, people would just ping, like, "Mozambique here," and that's, like, all you fucking
I
heard,
know.
so,
It's such a
yeah.
meme. Yeah, damn it all. I gotta play some more of that. I haven't played in a long time. Okay, back to the matter at hand. So we've removed what have we removed from the top to the top? Like we're putting Bloodborne. So Bloodborne now is guaranteed top three.
Mhm, mhm.
So
I
that
think
is
God of War goes up high
God
as
of War goes up
well.
high. Obviously I think Persona 5 is gonna be pretty high because it is
You
even
know
on
what?
your list.
I think it's gonna be high, but I will tell you it dropped to 20 for me.
It did. It did.
It's gone down quite a bit,
Yeah.
so
Well, for sure, for sure.
It
I'm just
it's
saying, like,
high, but it's not the guaranteed victory it had
no,
last year.
that's fine. I mean, I'm not coming here with an expected guaranteed victory, but I mean, I think both of our number one games, no matter what, will be in the near the top.
Oh, yeah,
So
or 18,
yeah.
whatever. Or down to fucking
Hey, you know
18.
what? Bloodborne's on your arm.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. Of the 2, I got Bloodborne tattooed, not Sekiro,
um,
so maybe what does that
yeah,
say?
that's true. That's true. Okay. So what are we feeling now? What are we feeling? We gonna do 17? We want to do, you know, um, what's a sacrificial lamb? Could we agree potentially to sacrifice? And this might be a bit controversial. Could we potentially sacrifice Ghost of Tsushima here next?
I'm okay with that because Ghost just squeaked in at 25 for me.
Right. Okay.
Like, I like Ghost a lot, but
I like Ghost a lot too. I mean, obviously,
yeah.
on both of our lists means a lot to both of us from like the PlayStation 5 sort of era. I mean, it's one of the
Mhm.
only platinums I've gotten on the PS5 so far. Beautiful world, like unbelievably gorgeous. The wind mechanic is the greatest thing, and every single open world game needs the wind mechanic because it's just an excellent way to point yourself to a waypoint. Um,
Mhm.
the art too, like that, those black and white sort of
Oh my
vignettes
god.
between the different missions and everything are so beautiful. What a good
Okay,
experience.
so after saying that, are you sure it
Well,
has
I
to
mean,
go
here's
this
the thing.
far?
I was looking for something we could maybe agree upon. Like if it was just up to me
Yeah.
picking this list, I would quite happily
No,
shove Papers, Please here.
I think Papers, Please can go lower.
Yeah?
I think that's fair. I think Papers, Please and, like, like, something like Apex maybe can
Mm-hmm.
go a little
Hmm.
bit lower.
Okay. Yeah,
You
I
know,
would make
because at
that
least,
trade.
like, Ghost is lower than Papers, Please for me, but it is on both of our
Yeah,
lists
yeah.
versus, like, Apex Legends wouldn't even cross my mind kinda thing,
Of
despite it
course,
being a
yeah.
good game.
And
And
Papers,
s
Please to me is like something I really appreciate, and
Mhm.
I like enjoyed it a lot. But you're definitely more of the advocate for it than I am.
Yeah.
So
I adore Papers, Please. I say if anything, if anyone's gonna pick from this, like, list to go play, Papers, Please is, like, 8 hours, so
it's not
it's
even
really
that long
manageable.
sometimes, depending. I guess
Yeah, or
depends
depending
how
what
you get
happens.
far. Yeah.
Depends what happens, but it's just, like, the perfect example of a game that doesn't feel like a video game, you know? It's like a sim of being a border crossing at this,
You
like,
could almost be at work when you
dystopian.
play sometimes.
You can also work, but it's like a game you can almost, like, study too, like, you're a dystopian border crossing guard, and you have to choose between, like, letting people cross and, like, you're marking passports and checking their papers, so, like, it's really weird and mundane stuff you're doing, but the, like, moral implications of, like, some of the choices you make in that game are so striking, and, like, it's so hard to compare, like, how does a game like Papers, Please get compared to something like
Any of the
Elden
games on
Ring
this list.
and God of War and Persona, like, how do you compare those? But
Mhm.
it's just such a testament to the fact that, like, my emotional connection to Papers, Please makes it go, like, number 17 on this list on top of, like, the behemoths that are Portal and, like,
Yeah, Sekiro.
Divinity, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's insane.
It is. But you're everything you say is right. Papers, Please is like legit one of the most unique games I've ever played. Like we talked about Portal being unique. Papers, Please is even more unique. And
Yeah.
it's got so much to say about sort of the world and how it operates because this is like the reality for some people, like this type of or like look what's going on in Ukraine right now. I'm sure there's people trying to
Mhm.
get across borders there to flee war, and it's like that's probably some happening somewhere, like a gamified version of it here, and it's really interesting. And then you get to the silly stuff too, like that voice, the papers, and like
Papers, and
whatever.
there's that one guy who keeps showing up with, like, clearly, like, forged, like,
Yeah.
horrible documents. And, like, yeah, it balances that juxtaposition of, like, being really kinda silly and out there with also tackling some, like, really complicated issues in addition to the moral quandary of, like, I want to let this person through the border because I know they've been displaced from their family and they're, like, living in horrible conditions, but at the same time, I don't wanna get in trouble because then I get fired and I can't afford to feed my family, and it's like, holy shit, like, it's an
Exactly.
insane situation to be placed in while you were just laughing at some silly guy 5 minutes ago.
Totally. I think it's just a special experience for that reason. Yeah, like you said, I would actually echo it that people should play that, especially just because it's so short and so like you can get it on your phone now, I'm pretty sure as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, check that out. That's
You know what the hardest part of doing this
what's that?
is that every single time a game comes up and we get to talk about how amazing it is, it's like, "Holy shit, I want that higher on the list." Like, we have a joke in my friend group that there's, like, top 5s and then there's Katie top 5s because my top 5 will consist of 15 things.
Right, yeah,
Because,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I have so much trouble choosing because, like, I just love seeing the value and the beauty in many different things and, like, oh, Papers, Please on a certain day, Papers, Please would be in my top 3, no
Wow,
problem.
that's high.
Like, depending on just how I'm feeling that day and, like, what kinda mood I'm in and, like,
Yeah.
they're
Well,
just
I mean, if
all
you
so quality. The
yeah,
takeaway is that everything here is of extremely high quality.
that's right. And that's what I'm gonna say about Apex Legends quickly. I know we spoke about it a little bit, but just
Mhm.
because it's on the list, we got to do a little piece on it. And I just think Apex is the best version of a battle royale right now, and it's those are so prevalent. There's so many different ones. Like I've actually jumped back into Fortnite because, for those that don't know, actually they're donating 100% of their profits for the first 2 weeks of this new season that just came out to the Ukraine effort. So I literally bought the battle pass. I bought myself a skin for the first time ever, not
That's
because I
awesome.
really wanted to buy a lot in Fortnite because I only play sporadically, but because it's like I want to donate anyways, just may as well get something for it on my end as well. So do that. But
Mhm.
anyway, Apex is I think it's just like the best battle royale, like it's a great
Yeah.
combination between the seriousness that is Call of Duty and the sort of cartoony, wacky stuff that is Fortnite, and I know there's a lot of other ones as well. But Apex just has the realistic guns, but also the unrealistic abilities and sort of supernatural powers, and
Yeah,
it's
and the
just awesome.
movement is so
The
clean. I
movement is
also
great.
really like that it's a 3 squad.
Hmm.
'Cause, like, you don't get a lot of games that are good for 3 players. It's either, like, 2 or 4, and
Right.
that 3 little, like, in between is really nice.
Yeah, it is, and they even released like the arenas mode recently too, which is a lot of fun. It's more like a team deathmatch style sort of thing where you're eliminating people. So they're always adding to it, and it's
Mhm.
one of those real like definition of a games as service sort of platform thing where it's always getting
Yeah,
new things added, and it's just a great time. Um, Totally recommend people.
that's a good call. I wanna give a quick shout out to, Tetris 99, my
Mm-hmm.
personal favorite battle royale,
Right,
but
it's a fun one.
it couldn't be here today, so Apex will, accept
Yeah,
the award for it.
that's right. That's right. And also Babel Royale. I don't know if you checked that one out. That's the word one. Remember I told you about that
Oh,
Scrabble-ish
yeah,
one.
you're right,
Yeah,
Scrabble Royale, that might actually be my new favorite.
yeah, right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Tetris.
Okay,
Um,
so we're at the bottom 16 are done. Maybe I'll just recap it quick while we think here. Just
okay,
for those who are not watching on video. So far, counting up from 25, we have 25 is Cuphead, number 24 Fire Emblem, number 23 Bioshock, number 22 Persona 4 Golden, number 21 is Divinity Original Sin 2, number 20 is Portal, 19 Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, 18 Sekiro, 17 Papers Please, and 16 is Apex Legends. That's where we're sitting
okay.
at the moment, with a few other games put aside for the time. So now we're at 15. I feel like 15, we're sort of in the middle of the list, maybe slightly
Mhm.
lower. This might be a good spot for another game that we both played that we're kind of just like, this has made it higher than we thought. Can we put it somewhere? I would maybe say that would be either Detroit or Heavy Rain.
See, this is tough. So how much higher is Heavy Rain for you than Detroit?
It's a good question, actually, isn't it? Because this is a fair debate for
Mhm.
both of us, because I know you love Heavy Rain.
I love both. Now,
Um,
I will say my opinion is slightly skewed as well because I'm actually probably about, and I would have loved to have finished it for this, but I'm about maybe at most 2 hours would be my guess off of beating Detroit.
right, yeah, yeah,
So I'm right at the climax of that game.
yeah.
And you know what? They're just different. They're hard to compare. Heavy Rain is like one of the best murder mysteries I've ever played, and
Hmm.
I love murder mysteries. But it's one of the best. The twists in there are incredible. The characters are all extremely likable. I think it's got a little bit more like quick time event gameplay
I
than
think it
Detroit
does
does,
too.
but I honestly think that's a benefit to it. I think it's one of the few games that really makes a case for how quick time events can be used effectively. So I mean that as a positive.
Hmm. Hmm.
Detroit, on the other hand, I think is just a better written game. I
Right.
think the world that's realized there with how they've got these, like the robots that are basically like a new slave race to humans because humans just get robots to do everything for them,
Yeah.
and then them kind of rising up to say that, like, you know what, we do have emotions and we are capable of the things that humans are capable of, and them kind of trying to take autonomy for themselves is so well written, and just the small details in that game astound me. Like, there's so many times where you're walking around and you keep getting mirrors and prompts to look in mirrors is one of the first things I notice about the game because it's all about the idea of like what it means to be human and self-reflection.
Hmm.
So you can't go 5 minutes without, like, looking in a mirror in for the first half of Detroit,
Yeah.
and I think Detroit is a higher quality. I think they learned a lot from Heavy Rain, and they got in a really good team of writers to build this world for Detroit.
Yeah. Well, they've made a few games in between too, like Beyond Two Souls and
Mhm.
those. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's tough to compare them in a way because Heavy Rain's so much older. And when you go
Mhm.
back, like one thing I really love about Detroit is that it makes it so much easier to go back, and like both of these games are built upon the choices that you make really having an impact in
Mhm.
what happens. And in Detroit, you can sort of go through and they've got this whole system of like there's this web that comes up and you can see like where the choices are sort of locked and what you did and what branches it led you down. And Heavy Rain
Yeah.
doesn't have any of that because of when it
And
came
what's
out.
nice about that with Detroit as well is you can also see statistics of your friends
Hmm.
and just overall world. So every time I beat a chapter, I just comb through it and try to
It's
see, like,
interesting,
what
isn't
people
it?
did.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
interesting.
really neat
So
on that.
I mean, Detroit, I think for me knocks it out in those ways. I think the one part, and the other thing too, is the controls are just so bad in Heavy Rain, like having to hold L2 to walk or some bullshit. Like it just
You know what?
sucks.
It's funny is I
But
actually like the controls in Heavy Rain, but they're just janky. Like, it's one of
yeah,
those games where if you're not standing in the exact perfect spot, you don't get the
yeah,
prompt, and it's like, you'll walk back and forth in front of a table, like, 6 times trying to, like, pick something up because you're not perfectly in front of
100%,
it.
100%. I think the one
Um
reason Heavy Rain is the one area that I really, aside from the mystery, that I really like is I think I just personally preferred the characters you play as also. Like I found
Mhm.
the detective, I forget his name off the top of my head now, but I found him was like really fun to play as. I found
Oh,
like
the drug one?
both of them actually. Now that you say it. Like
Oh, both of
not the
them, yeah.
FBI agent, he was fun too, but
Mhm.
there's a few different characters that were more
Oh, the
interesting.
trench
The trench
coat
coat
boy.
guy,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
first of
yeah.
all, his name's not Quincy, but I wanna say it's something
It sounds like
kinda
Chauncey or something like
Chauncey.
that. Yeah,
It's definitely not Chauncey. Yeah,
yeah,
he is an amazing
yeah,
character, absolutely.
yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Like I'm actually still torn. I can't tell what you're feeling.
Okay, here's a better question.
Okay.
What is a better murder mystery game? Heavy Rain or Danganronpa?
Oh man. You know what?
As much as you can compare Detroit and Heavy Rain,
You're
Danganronpa and
right.
Heavy Rain actually have a hell of a lot in common as well.
You're right. Actually, now that you think about it, I personally loved playing Danganronpa so much, and I think it needs to be higher up than where we're at on the list now. Especially since
Okay.
both of us have played it. I don't know we've played both of these games as well, but I personally
So
like
maybe
Danganronpa.
Heavy Rain goes down here and
Okay.
Danganronpa goes up as the murder mystery winner?
I could be down for that because like we're pretty torn on Detroit and Heavy Rain anyway, so I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. I'll put Heavy Rain here. Now that is something I didn't expect to see, I will be honest.
Yeah, Heavy
I
Rain didn't
thought
even
you
make my list.
I thought
See,
you may have had
this
it
is the
higher.
quintessential Katie top 25
Yeah,
because I'm arguing for a game that I didn't even put on mine because I
that's
love it
right.
so
That's right.
much.
Okay, I'm willing to make a sacrifice here if you are. I
Okay.
just to get things kind of rolling a little bit more. I think this
Yeah,
is about as high as I could probably wish to push Miles Morales. And I know
okay.
you've not played it. I think it's an amazing game. It's very similar to Ratchet and Clank, which is why I didn't put them both on the list because they're
Mhm,
just really polished, amazing action games. Take advantage of the dual sense, although Ratchet does that more. But just
mhm.
the world, the way that it connects to the first Spider-Man 2018, and sort of build that world out more. The fact that there's a living, breathing Avengers tower that you can climb and jump off of and swing around, and it's just so much fun to move.
Yeah, I've
Um,
heard you really feel like
it's a great game.
Spider-Man.
You really do. You really, really
Yeah,
do. Except you play as Miles Morales, so it's a little. But
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
They're just great games, and I feel like because you haven't played it, can't move it too much further. And also,
Mhm.
like I just feel like there's more of my own stuff I'd rather argue at this point. So
Yeah,
I'm down to put Miles Morales here.
that's fair. I'm on board with that. I would say as well, we can revisit for 13 our Ghost of Tsushima because we kind of had it
Mm-hmm.
considered for lower earlier and it bumped up a little
Hmm.
bit, but
Now the
we're
only
kind of running
thing,
out of picks that we
yeah,
can sort of just throw
yeah, we
in the
are.
bottom half.
Is there anything you wouldn't mind sacrificing next to my Miles Morales? Because again, I've noticed this thing. I have three of
Mhm.
my games in a row: Apex,
Well,
Heavy Rain,
see,
Spider-Man.
here's the problem is that I think we have this unfortunate problem where you've played a lot
Yeah,
more
it's
of the
true.
games I like
It's
as
true.
opposed to like
It's fortunate and unfortunate though, right? Because if
Mhm.
I mean, you might have a good perception of something that I've played and you actually wouldn't may not like it, for example.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if you really don't have anything super strong, I couldn't put Tsushima here, but like the next game for sure, you got to lay something down.
Yeah, I think Tsushima could go here, and then I'd be down to put, like, Detroit maybe
Okay. Oh,
after
you want to put
that.
Detroit so close? Interesting. I thought you'd be pushing for it harder, but you know
Well,
what?
I
Considering it was
really
so
would
close, though,
like it, but
yeah, it was
I
considering
mean,
it was so
Hades is the
close.
other thing I'd
Yeah,
actually put down here.
but you'd put Hades down here.
Ugh, I
I
don't
didn't
know,
expect
actually.
that.
I'm starting to panic. I'm starting to
Okay,
I
well,
don't know what
you
I'm
know,
doing.
no, hold on. I
No,
think
because
that's
you
not a
liked
bad
Hades.
idea.
Hades has gotta go high. You also really liked Hades,
I
though.
did, but it also didn't make my top 25.
That's
But what's the
true.
other game we're debating it with? Hades
Um,
and
Hades and Detroit.
Detroit. I would sooner
Actually, let
put
me look
Detroit.
at my list. Where did I even put Detroit? I did put it below Returnal and Banner Saga. Okay, I've gotta
Yeah.
keep some consistency, internal consistency in my mind. Otherwise, it's just chaos.
I haven't even looked at my own list since we started this. I'm just focused on the 25.
Right?
Interesting.
And this is how
Do you
fluid these lists can
do
be.
you think there's a potential? I'm just looking at this list. Like I'm trying to be realistic in where I'm going to put my stuff.
Mhm.
Now, the big one we haven't talked about here, Kate, is Returnal, because that's a game I've not played at all. And although I'm sure I would like it, that is the kind of that one instance. But also I feel like you're going to want it higher, and something's telling me I'm okay with that.
Returnal was my game of the year last year.
Mhm.
And Returnal is a masterpiece, and I think you'd like
I think I would
Returnal,
like it too.
especially with the co-op feature
Yeah.
that they've just added in. I think you would genuinely get a really good kick out of Returnal. You'd love the world. You'd I think probably wish it was a little bit easier or had some, like, variable modes or things,
Right.
but I think it's one of those games where it has the benefit of like, it reminds me a lot of a FromSoft game, but it has the
Yeah.
benefit of that you get stuck, but you're always progressing. So it's not
Yeah.
like Bloodborne where it's like, okay, there's maybe like 2 or 3 bosses I can kinda do in this order, but once I've finished those, there's like a bottleneck and I have to do this thing
Mhm.
next. And it's like you're stuck on the bus, like, fuck it, you're gonna run it 40 times. And then just like you can technically grind, but that's boring. Nobody wants to do
But
that.
it's also a
So you're
roguelike,
gonna
right? So it's set up
um
differently than a Bloodborne.
So yeah, so what happens with Returnal is like you will get stuck on bosses and you will get stuck progressing in biomes, but your progress isn't tied to like leveling up and
Mhm.
collecting resources. Your progress is as you play, no matter how well your run goes, you are leveling your guns up and
Right,
progressively
right.
getting stronger. So there was times where like I'd beat a area really quickly and then get stuck on the next area because
Mhm.
like the game would have expected me to take longer in the previous one, and so therefore now I'm like not leveled very much, and so I'd
Yeah.
be stuck, and then I would kinda get better and then keep progressing. So
Right, right.
I think it's got the difficulty of like a Souls kinda thing, but it's got a really different
The format is
like
different, right? Because
yeah,
it's built
the
like a
rhythm
roguelike.
yeah, exactly, the cadence is quite different to it, so I think it's less obtuse in that way
Mhm,
and
mhm.
less, like, difficult to get into.
Yeah.
And, like, you love the guns, like, you say
Oh,
Apex
for
is a great
sure.
shooter, like, Returnal feels
For sure.
incredible,
For
and, like,
sure.
the alt fire being the, like, the trigger, like, fully held down versus partially held down, like, it just does some really cool things with the DualSense.
I'm gonna play it for sure. I already said it on the
Yeah,
show. Like, it's for sure coming. I just gotta find the time.
yeah, yeah.
Um, where does that leave it for this list?
Right, I would like it like, if it could get, like, top 10, I'd be super
Okay.
pleased.
Is there so what are we gonna put here? This is the thing. Can I make some suggestions just to see how you feel?
Yes,
I'm
yes,
okay for
you can.
Detroit being here if that's okay with you.
My
Um,
heart breaks a
I'm
little
almost
bit, but
okay with a Detroit Hades pairing,
a Detroit Hades pairing?
or
Okay, but
we could even do something like this. How about this? Detroit Detroit 12, Danganronpa 11, and Hades in number 10 into the top 10.
I would be okay with that, but I think you have to slot Brothers in
Oh, interesting.
before, Hades.
Really.
Because at that point, we're getting into
We're getting into top 10.
almost
We're getting dangerously
exclusive
close to the top 10 here.
and almost exclusively things we've both played, whereas Brothers is a
Yeah.
game well, I guess I have played, but it's
Okay.
not on my list.
So how about this then? Let's reverse this a little bit because I feel like this is where the debate is going to come in a little harder. Why don't we try and define what games are in our top 10 and try and balance
Okay.
that out as best we can, and then see what are the two leftovers and put them at
Right,
11 and 12.
okay, that's a better option. So for top 10, we've already locked in Bloodborne.
Yeah, Bloodborne's in top
So
10 for
Bloodborne's in
sure.
top 10, God of War
God of War
is
for
gonna be
sure. Now,
there.
top 10 for sure, Persona 5 Royal. Top 10 for
Yeah,
sure,
Persona
Elden
5
Ring.
Royal,
Elden Ring,
Elden
top 10.
Ring, yep, yep, yep.
Low top 10, but it's in.
Hey, it still
Um,
can. Returnal, I'd love to be there.
Returnal you'd love. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. How many do we have here now?
That's 6.
The Last
There's
of Us
4 more
Remastered, I think,
options.
will also make it as well,
Yep,
judging by
The
you
Last
really
of
liked
Us.
that and I liked it as well.
The Last of Us
So,
is solid.
so how many do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how many are
6, we can have
okay?
4 more in our top
4 more.
10.
So out of all these ones, we've both played all of those except for Returnal. I
Yeah.
would personally say that Hades should be a top 10 game because we both played a lot of it.
Okay,
And we
agreed.
both
I
loved
love
it.
Hades.
We
I
both
don't know
loved
why I'm
Hades.
being so funny on
Yeah, don't
Hades
be
right
so.
now.
We shouldn't think too much about that because we both loved
Yeah.
Hades. I mean, it was game of the year for both of us, or in contention for it. I can't remember now, but it
Mhm.
was high up there.
Yeah.
And now this is where it gets interesting because we have those games. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the ones remaining: Detroit Become Human, Hollow Knight, Banner Saga 2, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, and Danganronpa 2. That's 5, right?
Mhm. I'm actually gonna like retroactively push Detroit here. Looking
Okay.
at like
Yeah.
the other
Looking at what we've
contenders for
got
top
left,
10,
yeah, I agree.
I think we both
Detroit's
really
got to go
enjoyed that
here.
game. Hmm.
Become Human. Now, this is interesting. We
Wait, wait,
have
wait, wait,
what's
wait,
up?
wait. I was saying Detroit for top 10 when you
Oh,
put it at
really?
12.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Well, I
So,
think we both really like this game.
okay, so if we're going into the top 10, we do. But this is where I think you're going to have to put a couple games out of the top 10 because looking at the list that's left, how are we going to fit Banner Saga
I
and
think Banner Saga can
Hollow
be
Knight?
I think Banner Saga can fuck. Do I want Banner Saga more than Detroit if I had
So,
to have one of them?
I
Which
would
one do you prefer?
oh, mm, probably Detroit.
Okay.
Probably
So
Detroit.
maybe Banner Saga can get
I'm
out
going to
of
put
the
it
top
here.
10.
I'm going to go the Banner Saga here for now. We'll see what ends up at
Okay.
11. We can debate that afterwards. But we got to
Mhm.
finish this top 10 off. So right now we have Persona 5 Royal, Bloodborne, God of War 2. Oh no, God of War. Why is it a 2? God of War.
God of War
Um,
2018
The Last
maybe?
of Us Remastered, Hades, Elden Ring, Returnal, which is 7. And out of the and Detroit, which is 8.
And 8, yeah. So
So out
out
of
of
the
what?
last 3, which is Brothers, Danganronpa, and Hollow Knight, we need to figure one of those to go below. Can we agree on Danganronpa? Because it's the one that we both played that I know we both probably like about equally, and I really don't want Brothers to be out of the top 10, and I think you probably say the same for Hollow Knight. I think that's a good compromise.
Yeah, I think that is the correct answer.
Okay. As much as we love Danganronpa, because for those that haven't played it because it's
Mhm.
written off as a weird anime game, let me just say, if you're gonna give one anime game or one anime series a chance and sort of look past the anime style if you don't like it, make it this one because this is a crazy murder mystery that is beyond anything you'll ever
Yeah.
play. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
And I will say it does have its moments of being an awful anime, and you just
totally.
slide past them real quick because it is so worth it for the other 90% of the game.
Mhm. And don't start at the second one either. Start at number
Yeah,
one
you
because it's a
have to start at
trilogy.
1.
It
Yeah,
goes all
they
the
are
way through.
directly connected.
It's a great,
Um,
great time.
2 has a great cast of characters. Shout out to Fuyuhiko, one of the best characters of
Fuyuhiko,
all
hell yeah.
time.
Shout out to a lot of the characters in that game. For every one that I'm like that character sucks, there's like 3 other characters where at any day I have a Katie list going on myself and I'm like this is my favorite
Mhm.
character, but there's like 15. Like
Yes, yeah, Byakuya, shout out to
shout out
him
to him.
as well.
One of the greatest.
One of the goats.
And also Monomi, one of the greatest characters of all time in my
Monomi. I was not sure if I liked Monomi or not.
I flip-flopped so many times, but I ended up thinking she was great
Yeah, I
personally.
didn't trust her the whole game. I was like, "She's too
Well, yeah,
innocent and
I know. I
cute."
didn't That's the thing that you don't trust anyone when you play those games because the
Yeah.
whole premise is anyone could kill you at any time to try and get released from this murder scenario. Very cool
Mhm.
stuff. A little disturbing at times, to be honest. Um, Despite the anime graphics, it gets pretty gruesome. So maybe
Yeah.
that'll be, a benefit for certain people. Who knows? I liked it myself. Anyway, we got a top 10 to sort out, Kate. Wow, this is getting very challenging. So,
This is
um,
difficult.
maybe I'll just recap what we've got now for the listeners again one more
Okay.
time, because again, not everyone's watching the video. So again, from 25 up, we have Cuphead, 24 Fire Emblem, 23 Bioshock, 22 Persona 4 Gold, 21 Divinity Original Sin 2, number 20 Portal, number 19 Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, 18 Sekiro, 17 Papers, Please, 16 Apex Legends, 15 Heavy Rain, 14 Spider-Man Miles Morales, number 13 Ghosts of Tsushima, number 12 The Banner Saga, and number 11 Danganronpa 2. Now you put Banner Saga 2, didn't you?
I did put Banner
I
Saga
will put the
too.
2 there. My
I mean, it's
apologies.
representative of the
Sure,
entire,
sure. But it is the
trilogy,
representative,
but
and therefore it gets
it's
the number.
absolutely it's also representing the book that they wrote as a prequel,
Here you
because
go.
that's also really good. Yeah.
I've also noticed that there are 4 games with numbers on our list, and 3 of them are the second one. Persona 4
Wow.
Golden being another one.
It's like the opposite of movies. The
It
second one's
is.
somehow the best
It is.
one.
All right, so we got a top 10. Kate, can you read for our listeners what our top 10 final games are?
We can indeed. This is a struggle because these are of the highest caliber. We've got a Persona 5, The Royal, Bloodborne, God of War 2018, The Last of Us Remastered, Hades, Elden Ring, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, Hollow Knight, Returnal, and Detroit: Become Human.
Wowie zowie. Okay.
Wow, wow,
So
wow.
there's a few ways we can tackle it. Do you have any suggestions, or can I propose how we do it?
You may propose, and I will either accept or decline, graciously, of course.
Okay. Okay. So there's 2 ways that I can see to do this. Number
Mhm,
1 is if James had his preference,
mhm.
unbeknownst to your opinion at all. This is where I would put Elden Ring, because I just haven't played enough. I actually like Elden Ring more than Hollow Knight, but
Hmm,
I think I would put it there just because, or I mean, I would put Returnal, sorry, because I've not played it. But
okay.
judging by the fact that you might want it higher, and by the fact that we're gonna have Bloodborne in the top 3, I don't think there's gonna be room, certainly in the top 5, for Elden Ring because of that, unless there's a really good deal going on. So I think that that could go there. I also think there's room for pairing 2 games we haven't played, each other haven't played, which is Returnal and, oh no, you've played all of these now, haven't you? I
I
was
have
gonna say
played all of
Return. We
these.
could pair Returnal and Brothers because I know you're
I
not as hot on
think we
Brothers.
can still pair those 2 because you haven't played Returnal
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
have played I haven't actually finished Brothers. I
Right.
got the big twist spoiled for me and just kinda
Mm,
fell off
yeah,
playing.
and I can see how that would definitely ruin your. Well, not ruin, but like
I
lower
mean,
the
it
impact.
it diminishes a really
Yeah.
important moment in the
Yeah.
game.
Exactly.
But I do have a lot of respect for that game, and I've
Exactly.
been really enjoying A Way Out, so I'm
Yeah.
on
Great.
train for this
Um.
this weird trilogy.
Okay. Did you want to do the swap then?
Yeah,
Brothers
I'll
and
swap
Returnal.
you.
Okay.
Brothers and Returnal.
Okay. Um. For now, I'll put Brothers lower because I think you love Returnal quite a bit. Um.
I do.
I will just say about Brothers though, the one reason I keep this game so high, and I said it a few times when it comes up on these lists, is that this game, if you want to show someone a very impactful emotional story that you not really see, that you couldn't see in any other form of media, it's only possible because it's a video game and the way you
Mhm.
control it and the tangibility of moving your characters around, and the things that happen in that story and the way that it's felt emotionally through the control scheme. I know it sounds a bit ridiculous to say it, but that's legitimately what Brothers does, and it just proves, in my mind, is one of the pillars of like legitimacy of games as an art form because of how it tells its story, and how the story would be quite generic if it wasn't a game, in my opinion. So I think
Yeah,
it's very special, and it deserves to be recognized for.
I completely understand. I completely agree, like, it takes full use of its medium, which not a lot of things do,
Mhm.
right? Like, you could translate a lot of games into movies, you could translate a lot of
Exactly.
books
Well, I mean, The
into
Last of Us
games.
TV show is probably going to be just as sick as the game in a lot of ways, because you're playing through a narrative. Where Brothers is,
Yeah.
you're playing through a narrative, but it's so much of
There
it's because of how it
there's
controls.
that extra tangibility to it, and it definitely starts off as kind of just your quintessential cute indie game, but it elevates itself a lot higher, than the first hour or 2 you spend in the game.
Exactly. And it's
Um,
Joseph Ferris, support the guy, make some good stuff. Okay, so we have Brothers and Returnal 8 and 9. I think this is a good spot at number 8, potentially for Detroit,
okay.
because
I'm
it's another
content.
one,
Detroit has made it this high, I'm
right?
hella content,
Yeah, me too. And you know what?
and
That's a good
I'll
spot.
even extend you an olive branch
Okay,
and say that I'd be willing to put Hollow Knight
would you?
as, number 7.
Okay, but is okay, okay. And what are you wanting in return for such a deal? Because I do agree Hollow Knight would be my pick here. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I actually
You
was
know
going
what?
to argue about,
I'm simply just
yeah,
extending an olive branch because it is a game that is a lot higher for me than it is for
gotcha.
you,
Yeah,
and I think that's fair.
totally. I can totally agree with that. I think Hollow Knight's is similar to like my Miles Morales argument, where it's like a game that I wasn't going to get higher just because you hadn't played it and you respect it and all that. But
Mhm,
obviously, I think you like Hollow Knight more than Spider-Man, so I'm okay with
mhm,
that. And I feel like I should probably return the favor with one of these sacrifices. I'm just counting here. Now, Bloodborne's in the top 3.
mhm.
Hades, I think Hades could actually go here
I think Hades, I'd be very happy with Hades at
because
6.
Hades
I
was
think
originally going to be in the 11, 12-ish kind of spot.
yeah.
And I
I think
think
Hades is great here.
okay.
I am
I'm
perfectly
okay with
content.
Hades here, but I think you're now this is where I'm going to say I really
Where
think
I'm in
Elden
trouble.
Ring has to go at number 5 because
Oh, okay.
it's just we're Bloodborne's guaranteed top 3. We have Elden Ring, which is a game that just came out. We're still high on the hype of it in a way. And I know that I know that your opinion probably won't change because it's quite solidified, but at the same time, it's not like there aren't other examples of games that are really good all the way till the end, for example. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with this game, but it is an unknown, whereas the rest of these are all things we finished.
Mhm.
And the other thing is that um, it is still something that where 6 months after you beat it, we might look back on it differently. Who's to say that you actually won't look back and be like, that was really fun at the time, but I really enjoyed Dark Souls 3 more overall because of X reason, because of the story that didn't make any sense at the end. You never know. I'm just saying
Look,
that
I got married in Dark Souls 3. If I don't think I'll get to do that in Elden Ring.
I'm
Um,
just saying. I'm just saying. Like I think as a
yeah.
collective,
I
the other games here are gonna be better.
I will concede and agree that I think Elden Ring can go here,
Okay.
but I would like it put on the record that the only concern about Elden Ring moving around in my personal list is
Yeah.
whether or not it's going higher,
Gotcha.
because
Yeah.
I think it's gonna stay as a solid 3, just
Yeah.
because of my attachment to Bloodborne world and the mechanics of the combat of Sekiro. So I think Elden Ring is a safe 3, but I will tell you, every minute I spend in that game, my opinion of it goes higher
Yeah.
than the previous minute. So, like, this game, I think might potentially be FromSoft's best game ever made,
Mm-hmm.
but the other ones are just so personal for me.
100%. And you know what? I'm the one arguing against Elden Ring, but I love Elden Ring. I've played like
Mhm.
40 hours. I am really enjoying it. Like I said at the start, it's 40 on my list right now, but because of the criteria of my list, it really just
Mhm.
couldn't make it much higher. Like this game,
Yeah.
I would be shocked if this wasn't in my top 25 next time, as long as the trajectory continues to sort of go the way that
Yeah.
it's going for
So
me. So,
we'll give
mhm.
this one will high five Disco Elysium as being
Exactly. Yeah. It'll
like
be interesting.
next year, like they're gonna make a strong
Well,
return
those 2 are
with Returnal
certainly
because you'll have played it,
yeah, right. Those 2 are
baby.
certainly the most I'd say those are probably the 3 most interesting games for next time. Although I think we should agree right now that you should pick at least one game that I rank really highly that you've not played, and you should make a point to play it for next year as well,
Yeah,
because that'll
that's
enrich our
fair.
sort of argument about
Okay,
just
that's
for
true.
fun.
I'll think on this while we
Yeah. Anyway,
go through the next ones.
so we have a top 4 to sort out, Kate, between God of War 2018, The Last of Us Remastered, Persona 4 Golden, or Persona 5 Royal, sorry, and Bloodborne.
Okay,
Ooh, man.
so I think maybe what we could do is put these 4 in order for ourselves personally and see if there's any commonalities.
Sure.
Because
Okay.
I would put it Bloodborne,
Yeah.
God of War, Last of Us, Persona would be my
Gotcha.
ranking.
Okay. For me, I would say Persona, followed by God of War, followed by Bloodborne, followed by The Last of Us.
So then The Last of Us maybe slots in as an easy 4?
I can agree with that. I'm down for that. And especially
Okay.
because it is look what it's up against. First of all, 4 amazing. Like The
Yep,
Last of Us is amazing. What
amazing.
a great game. Especially the remastered version, like we forget this game. We were talking about Bioshock and Portal being quote unquote dated. The Last of Us is a PS3 game. Like it came out a
Mhm.
long time ago, and it's only because it's been remastered and recently came out on PC that is sort of and I think it's also viewed against Uncharted too, right? And people are like, "Oh, Uncharted's a PS3 series, so Last of Us is PS4," but it's actually
Yeah.
just as old almost.
Yeah, I found
Um,
there's still, like, a couple, like, dated-ish things in The Last of Us, but, like, you gotta look past it because the storytelling and just the character work in this, like, the amount of acting that Joel and Ellie get off in this game is incredible. And, like, I don't know what it is about these PlayStation exclusives and their, like, older grizzled person and younger, like,
Sure.
protege. They just fucking nail that relationship every single time. And the ending of The Last of Us, like, I haven't played 2, and I'm definitely going to
Mhm.
at some point, but the way that The Last of Us ends on that kind of, like, not a cliffhanger, but that uncertainty of, like,
Yeah,
where
did
their
she know he was
relationship
lying or
is, like,
not?
yeah, does she believe him? Like, where does that leave them? And it was just so emotional. Like, I think of all the games on this list, this is the one that probably I was the closest to crying, and, like, that emotional attachment is powerful when a game can make you feel that.
It is.
And I think too, like, we talked a little bit about brothers having, like, amazing control, but I think this game nailed the quiet moments, which is something that don't come up very often because in games, like, we often talk about, like, the big exciting set pieces and, the really big character development work. But The Last of Us has such amazing writing in terms of just little moments where they get to know each other a little bit. Like, Ellie wants to see a giraffe all game long. She's like, I will love I've never been to the zoo because she's grown up basically living in this apocalypse her whole life. She wants to go to the zoo and just see some kind of, like, innocent beauty of this giraffe. And so you finally see them near the end of the game, and Joel and Ellie kind of walk up like cutscene style, and they're looking at these giraffes. And, they just kinda sit there looking and they talk a little bit. For the most part, they're just enjoying this vista. And then it kind of hits you as the player that this is not a cutscene and it's not just gonna end, like, you have to actually be the one to control Joel to step away.
Mhm.
And, like, the weight of those little moments like that where it's like, I don't wanna deprive Ellie of this because, like, this poor girl, what she's gone through.
Right.
But at the same time, like, we have to press on and, like, I'm playing a game, I wanna play the game as a player, but just those little moments, like, The Last of Us nails it like other games don't do, and I think a lot of the beauty of that game is in those quiet, unspoken moments that just fly under the radar, but are so tangible when you've got the controller in your hand and it's up to you.
Right. I echo that so perfectly. Like, to me, Joel and Ellie are I can't think of another pair that is more you feel their connection better in a game. Like, even we're gonna talk about God of War in a minute, like between Kratos and Atreus. They have an
Mhm.
interesting relationship too, but you can literally feel the emotional connection between Joel and Ellie sometimes. I feel in these games, and it really hits home right at the end, like you say. And I think, like with that giraffe example too, The Last of Us doesn't have a lot of moments that are hopeful or happy
Mhm.
or very inspiring, and so the ones like that, I think you really remember them. And then they get juxtaposed by things that happen like immediately after when Joel gets impaled, and like,
Yep.
it's just so jarring, but it just reminds you, like, oh, here's this beautiful life that Ellie's seeing for the first time, but and your life could be over in a split second in this world, and just how dangerous it is. There's multiple characters that die throughout it in some scary and
Mhm.
sad ways, and it's really grounded, I think, in the way that it tells a
Yeah.
story.
They do not shy away from the harsh realities of the world that they're currently living in, and also the experiences that they've been through that have kind of gotten them to this place. Like, Joel is a really troubled character, and Ellie is really troubled in her own way as well, even though she's a lot more optimistic than Joel. Like, she has a lot
Hmm.
of hangups from her previous life, but, like, they're so well written and realistic to their situations, I think,
Hmm.
that I think to them, they outweigh Kratos and Boy for
Yeah,
me.
totally.
But I think what elevates God of War is I just think the gameplay of God of
Oh
War
yeah.
is above The Last of
I mean,
Us
we're
for
not
me.
debating them versus game. I think
Yeah.
God of War is better too. I just mean, as far as the dynamic,
Yeah.
like, I think Ellie and Joel really have something special as far as their
Mhm.
connection on screen. Nice.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree.
but as you mentioned, God of War, we have a top three
Okay.
to sort out. Um, and this is going to be contentious. Now, I have a suggestion,
Okay.
and I know it's not going to be popular because
Oh,
I know
dear.
I know. No, no, no. It's going to be popular. But
Okay,
hear
okay.
me out, okay? Persona 5 The Royal, super super low down on your list compared to the other games we have here. Where did
Yeah.
you had God of War pretty high as well, right?
God of War was my number 12,
Yeah, and Persona 20.
and Persona was 20.
Gotcha. And God of
Mhm.
War for me was number 2, Persona number
Yeah.
1. So I'm super happy, honestly, regardless, because also Bloodborne is like I think it's in my top 10 as
Bloodborne
well.
is
So I'm
is
actually
11 for you.
11.
It's
So I'm looking
very
really good.
close.
I'm actually willing to concede Bloodborne at number 1 to you if you want.
That would
because
make me so happy. I was
because
gonna suggest it, but I'm glad
yeah,
you
no, I know
suggested it
because
first.
here's the thing. I don't feel right arguing against it. Like
Yeah.
to me, Bloodborne. I guess we'll just talk about it now. Is or maybe we'll save it for the end. Screw it. I know
Okay.
you'll have a lot to say. But to me, I would be willing to do that. I personally would say because they're already both on your list. Can God of War please slot in at 3 with Persona number
God, it
2?
is absolutely I was gonna leave it
Okay.
I was gonna say Bloodborne first because a
Yeah.
combined score of 11 and 2 is
Exactly.
better than the other games, and then I was gonna say whatever order you feel more comfortable with
Okay.
for the other ones
Yeah.
is
So
pretty
I
nice.
mean, we maybe it's good to start talking about God of War here then at number 3
Okay.
because we're just talking about the combination and the journey that is
Mhm.
Kratos and Atreus' journey to spread his mother's ashes and battle a bunch of gods and become an adult and all the different things they go through, all the relationships. I mean, where do you really start aside from man? The axe feels great, and
Hell yeah, it does.
Brock and Sindri are maybe two of the best supporting characters, definitely the best
And
shopkeepers,
Mimir.
and Mimir. I
And
mean,
Mimir.
what a supporting cast. Even Freya is cool when you think
Yep.
about it, and Balder and these characters you run
Boulder's
into
awesome.
as even more side characters. Just that the
Yeah.
cast of that game is not very big, but every single character is impactful and has their own personality and is memorable in a way. Like how many other games can you mention the shopkeeper's name so memorably as you can with the dwarves? Like I just don't think you can. Rock and
Yeah,
Sindri. So
they have so much personality, and I love the progression of the game. Like, this game tells an amazing story. Like, you look at Kratos and Atreus at the beginning of the game, and you look at them at the end, and just how much they've learned from each other, and not only just in story, but in terms of gameplay. Like, when you do the first fight against the stranger, and it's just Kratos and Atreus, you fucking hide in the basement, you crappy kid, and then it's just Kratos going toe to toe with him, and then later on, you get Atreus in the mix, and he's kind of got very light, like, help, but he's still kinda
he's just kind of
sidelined in
shooting
terms.
some arrows from distance and
Yeah, he's kinda sidelined and, they're still they don't have that perfect trust with each other yet. It's like, Atreus, help when you can or keep yourself out of danger, but, like, don't screw this up kinda
he's
thing,
worried
right?
about Atreus as a safety hazard more than he is about
Yeah.
actually using him as an ally.
Exactly, like, he hasn't learned that he also needs to trust Atreus for that relationship to work, and then you think of the final fight at the end where it's the 2 of them just absolutely tag teaming, and, like, yeah, it's one of the most epic moments in, like, any game I've played, but at the same time, just how much it shows the growth between the 2 of them is just absolutely wonderful.
Definitely. And I think one thing also that I was amazing about God of War that always sticks with me about the game, and I know it's not really unique to God of War, is just the first time when you uh well, it's unique to this God of War compared to the other ones. It's not unique to like games in
Mhm.
general. But the way that the map, you've never had a map in a God of War game before. You sort of open it
Mhm.
up at the start and you're like, wow, there's going to be a lot to explore. And then you sort of get on your boat, go through this initial first area, and then once you get to the Lake of Nine and you sort of
Mhm.
open it up that second time and there's all this extra space that feels at the time expansive and like holy shit, like I can't believe it's actually this big. And then you get into all the other realms you're going to and stuff as well, and it's just scale was something I wasn't expecting, and then scale also is reflected in a lot of the boss fights where Kratos is like
Mhm.
giant on top of giant creatures and stuff as we've seen him before. But it's just that stuff is always amazing, and God of War does so well with that scale. And Kratos is just a human-sized person, but somehow
Mhm.
he's just this unbelievably strong, like invincible warrior that is just such a spectacle to watch in like a lot of the cutscenes, the fights as well.
Mhm. I honestly think God of War is, like, it's a testament to how good the game is because it's one of the games on this list that I think has very obvious flaws.
Mhm.
Like, it reuses bosses too many times.
Yeah,
It has
enemies
that
in
period
general.
of enemies, yeah, there's not enough variety in the enemies. It, has definitely that moment that a lot of people have picked out in the story where it just goes a little bit too quickly,
Mm,
when you kind of have that, dip in terms of Kratos and Atreus' relationship
right.
that seems to blow over relatively like, seems to start quickly and then kind of
Right, like, there
end
might have been
quickly, and
more
I
there originally, and things got kinda
yeah,
shifted
and I
around.
I think, Corey has mentioned, like, the writer has mentioned that there were more things he wanted to do with the game, and there were bosses that got cut just due to time constraints, and so it
Right,
wasn't the perfect version of the game that it could have been, and it just makes me that much more excited for Ragnarok
right.
because, like, they've got a second chance at kind of shoring up those details that weren't perfect in game 1, but I think, like, instead of just complaining about that, I mean it more as, like, a testament to just how good the stuff that works because it completely overshadows the things that are, would have been nice to have been slightly
Yeah.
improved before the game got released.
That's a great point because you're right. Like you and I have talked about this game a lot because of the podcast and just in general as well. And like I think as far as the games on that are high up go, you're right. We do have a lot more critiques about God of War than we could have had
Mhm.
before. Like something I think too is they could easily. I feel like the skill tree could probably be a bit more
Yeah.
expansive and like give me a bit more variety to where my Kratos actually ends up a little bit different than yours, whereas we
Mhm.
all just kind of end up with the same thing. We just decide, oh, I'm gonna do the this skill tree over this one first, but it's
Yeah,
not
it was
super
kinda more like
diverse.
RPG elements for the sake
Yeah,
of having RPG
exactly.
elements. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, it's not a bad thing. I don't think it detracts, but I just think it's something that if they add to it for Ragnarok could be like, wow, this is even better. And like, how could it possibly be this good? Like, it's already got such a
Yeah.
strong base, right?
Yeah, the potential is
But
there. And you know what? The other thing too is I will say the writing is phenomenal. Like when you start the game, especially that first interaction with a stranger, and like the story is very simple. And I think that it adds a lot to the
like a
game is
fairy
that
tale in a lot of
you
ways.
it really is, and it's just kind of like you have a very simple, clear goal, and you keep getting sidetracked or, things happen that are barriers to that. But I like that they have a very simple motivation because that's just a framework, the very, like, emotional motivation and framework for the
Hmm.
journey, and it's a lot more about the journey than, like, the destination in a lot of
Like
senses.
Lord of the Rings,
But
kind of.
it's just like
A
Lord of the Rings,
little
absolutely.
bit.
Um, but, yeah, you got the elves, everything's great.
Yeah.
But it also too, like, when you think back to the stranger in that first fight when he comes looking for Kratos, and what you think that means versus what that means at the end of the game when you have all
Hmm.
the pieces put together, it's very, very clever. They did some really cheeky things in God of War, and I'm a big sucker for that, like, aha moment when
Right.
it
Yeah.
finally clicks for you.
Yeah. Speaking of aha moments, let's make a good transition to Persona 5 Royal.
A
And now
royal.
we're going to talk about it in spoiler territory because we've talked about this a lot on the show as well.
Okay,
And I'm not going to
deal.
spoil the differences for you. I won't spoil anything royal wise, but I mean, gloves are off here for a little bit just because it's fun with those.
Mhm.
Persona 5 Royal, like that aha moment is one of my favorite moments, potentially one of my favorite moments in any game ever, is when in Persona you get arrested at the casino and or
Yeah.
whatever goes down when you go to steal the treasure there, and it turns out that the very first cutscene of the game actually happens like 50 hours or somewhere around that mark into the
Mhm.
game, and it's actually something that happens like right in the middle of the story, but it also works as an intro cutscene. And just that the way that it starts out, and you're playing it when you first boot the game, and you're running through these corridors, and your whole team is like their faces are kind of blurred out, and you're like getting these messages, Joker, head to the roof, watch out, they're
Mhm.
coming down the hallway, and you're like, okay, I guess I'm gonna like figure out who these people are. And then when you get there the second time, and it ends up this time you're working with your team, and you're like, you feel like you're part of that squad, and you've built these relationships,
Yeah.
it hits just the same, but it's even more interesting. And I just think it's such a testament to how strong of a relationship that you feel you build with the cast. Like you get to know these characters in a way that I feel like they're definitely not as strong character wise as like some of the other ones we've talked about. But what they do have is they have that unmistakable bond of friendship that you feel like you
Yeah.
can actually be part of that group as the player because of just the duration of time and how well you get to know the characters, which I think is
Yeah.
unbelievable.
They are stronger than the sum of their parts. Like, it's that camaraderie, it's that friend group kind of feel to
Hmm.
it that it's like, they all have each other's backs, like, there's that monumentous amount of trust and companionship, and it's like the Phantom Thieves are almost like one entity instead of being, like, a bunch of individual people.
Yeah, they are
And,
for
like
sure.
you said, like, sitting down to play that game and, like, I typically don't play JRPGs, like, Persona 5 is such an anomaly for me, like, this is
Hmm.
not my style of game, like, I like turn-based strategy, but I don't go for the anime, like, character-driven, like, 100 and like, 200-hour-long campaigns, like, it's not my scene. But Persona 5, it instead of feeling like a dragged out story, it feels like sitting down and, like, hanging out with your best friends
Hmm.
is the atmosphere of that game, and it's just so wholesome and comforting and inviting, and I think, like, I played it around the time too where, like, I'd started living on my own for the first time, and it was kind of like getting into, like, pandemic kinda stuff, and so,
Yeah.
like, I think it just hit me at the perfect moment as well, where it was, like, you know, having, like, that comfort
Mhm.
was a really, like, serendipitous thing for me at the time, but it is special and, like, oh my god, does Ryuji start out not as your favorite character and then somehow is at the end,
He
and I don't know
becomes so
how that
endearing, right?
happens,
Yeah.
like,
It'd be like
he's
if
just that
Michelangelo
dumbass.
became not annoying and I actually liked him.
Yeah, he's just like the dumbass that you just can't help but smile when he does stupid shit, but he's also, like, just so, like, good-hearted as well.
Definitely. And you know, the game, like you said, like it's so long and you don't usually play games like that, but I think Persona in general, but Persona 5 for sure, it does such a good job of like, you know, oh, just one more day. You know, you'll play a
Yeah.
roguelike, oh, just one more run, I'll get through it. And Persona
Mhm.
has this calendar and it just sort of like chunks forward to the next day and then the marker comes down and you're like, okay, right, I got up. Like, what am I
Mhm.
gonna do today? I should stop playing. Oh, let me just check my map. Oh my god,
Yeah.
Mikoto wants to hang out today, so I can level up my relationship with her and get like a new
Yeah,
attack
I'll
for
just
our
do that
I'll
quick.
just go hang out with her quick. Oh, but now it's evening. I mean, I guess I may as well do something. And then by the
Yeah,
you
I'll
know,
just
you
study
just play
real quick,
more,
like, "Oh,
right?
that test is coming up, maybe I'll just finish the test,"
Yeah.
like, it just never ends, and I think that's one of the other things I like about it is, like, because it's framed that way, it never feels like there's a lull in what's going on, like, even when you're in the sections that's just like, "I have 10 days of spare time," and, like, I'm just, you know, eating burgers with the boys and, like, going to a movie and,
Having some
like,
Big
reading
Bang
my book,
Burgies.
eating some Big Bang Burgie boys, and, like, that's what you do for 10 days, and it's like in other games, that would feel like kind of like filler
Tedious,
and, like,
right?
it
Yeah.
would it would feel tedious, it would feel like filler, it would feel like not very meaningful content, but in Persona, the way that it's framed on that calendar system and the way that, like, progressing in the game is often just physically time is progressing because something's going to happen on June 13th regardless of what you did before. June 13th is the next big date. So just knowing that you're kind of working towards that instead of like, oh, I've just dicked around fishing for 3 hours and it
Right.
doesn't matter and like nothing would be different if I didn't do that.
Mhm.
Just that works in my brain a little bit different to make me feel like I'm always working at a good pace.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing too to combine with that is, like, it's one of those games, and I think maybe you relate to this, is, like, when there's in these RPGs, when there's tons and tons of things to do, you feel like you don't wanna miss out on anything.
Yeah.
You wanna complete all the side quests because you might miss out on a good item, which means it takes forever to get back to the main story, which means you get bogged down and eventually stop playing, but Persona, because of the way that it's set up, you can only do, like, 1 or 2 things a day each day. You can never feel like you need to stop and complete all the side stuff because you physically just can't. The game's like, "Which of this stuff do you wanna do?" And we're just gonna move you along, and eventually you'll have no choice but to just along with us and continue the story. So it
Mhm.
prevents people, and, like, I'm guilty of that too in a lot of games where you wanna, like, get it all done and you just can't in Persona, and I feel like as stressful it is to make those decisions of what you want, it's actually really liberating when you think about how it forces you to play the game the way you'd probably have more fun playing other games if you just self-impose those rules on yourself as well. It's so
Yeah,
genius.
absolutely. I completely agree. I think if it didn't have that, I would have burnt myself out on doing side content
Mhm.
and not finished it. And like I think another thing that game does really smart with that system is it makes you value your relationships with the characters more because if you could just hang out with Makoto or like hang out with Ryuji every single day for 3 weeks straight and then have maxed out their relationship
Mhm.
at the first 20 hours of the game, it wouldn't feel like you were slowly getting to know each other and bonding over time. It would have just felt like kind of like, you know,
You
check
grinded
boxes
it out.
completion, like, "Yep, I did their story, done." But you're not done. You're consistently, like, getting to know them, and, like, some days they're busy doing other things, which makes them feel a lot more, like, meaningful when you do get to spend time with them. And so I think Persona is a really smart application of, like, restrictions are actually
Yeah.
beneficial in a lot of ways because they make you make decisions, and when you're choosing between things, that makes your choice feel a lot more impactful than just, like, yeah, I just you know, like, streamline this character, and now I'm gonna do all of this character, now I'm gonna do all of this character,
Mhm.
and I think the only complaint I have is you get Haru way too
You
late.
do. You
Haru
get
is
her
one
way
of
too
my
late.
favorites, and I did not get a chance to finish
You do.
hanging out with her. 'Cause
It's
if
a
you miss, like,
tragedy.
1 or 2 times, it's game over.
Yeah, it's a
Game over
tragedy.
hard.
It's a tragedy. I mean, we
Mhm.
could talk about this for a while, at least I could. I mean, we haven't even talked about the incredibly stylish menus, the incredible
Oh my god.
soundtrack.
Well, that goes without saying. The
Yeah,
style of music presentation is, like, second to none.
seriously. And I mean, the battle system's fun for those interested. It's just a fantastic
Yeah.
game that couldn't recommend any higher. Aside from
Mhm.
apparently we can recommend one game higher,
Hell yeah, we
Bloodborne.
can.
Oh my
We
god.
did it!
We did it,
We
Kate. We
did
did
it!
it.
It's
Did I spell that wrong? Am
Bloodborne!
I losing my mind here?
No, no, you're good.
Bloodborne,
You're
okay.
good. It looks
I
weird in
mean,
that
where can we
font.
say about Bloodborne? I
Oh, what
personally
can we say about Bloodborne? Go
love
on,
Bloodborne.
Sawyer. Oh,
I
yes.
think that uh
Yes.
the the world is just fascinating to me in Bloodborne. And I've not really dove down all these lore rabbit holes like you have, but what I can say is just the atmosphere of the game, and you kind of walk in and it's like misty and smoky and like dingy and dirty, and you just want to explore it, and there are little gaps in the walls that you might not notice, and there's just layers upon layers of stuff to figure out. And I mean, I love it in despite of I have no idea what half the things in the menu means. I love it despite the fact that I don't understand what the story is trying to say, because unless you watch videos on it, you're never gonna understand. I love it in despite the fact that I probably won't be able to play it if I become old and lose my sight, because you can't make the text any bigger and you can't do a lot of accessibility features. But despite all of that, the game is absolutely incredible, and some of the coolest enemies, the vistas of, like, I remember when you get to that part near the end when you're gonna go back to the hunter's dream, and it's just like red, and like there's the moon in the sky, and it's just like that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in a video
Yeah.
game, man. Like, oh my god, so cool. Anyway, take it
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said just tenfold. Like, Bloodborne is the game that has my heart, and I don't think it'll ever change. Like, I got for anyone who wants to go see on Twitter, I got my first tattoo last week, and I have some really beautifully stylized Carol runes from Bloodborne put on there. And I mean, that's a big thing, right? Like, this is imprinted.
Huge.
It's been a very impactful thing on my life. Bloodborne starts out as a gothic horror. It progresses, I won't say
No, no, just
to
spoil it. Just
where.
spoil it. Come on.
Well,
It's
I know
time.
if no, there's someone I know who's gonna listen to this,
Oh
and,
my
like,
god.
they're
Okay,
playing
fine.
it right
Fine, fine,
now,
fine,
and,
fine. Just
like,
for that one listener, we will do it. We care about our
yeah,
listeners here.
we care about you. He's starting to see the cracks, though, and the cracks show up, and it is definitely not that simple, that it is just a gothic horror. There are many influences coming into play, and the cosmos has opened. And if you have some eyes granted to you on the inside, you may be able to ascend. But it's just incredible. Like you said, the atmosphere is second to none. It's just oozing. Like, you cannot go in any single area of the game. Like, typically when you play a game, there's like, oh yeah, that was my favorite area, and this one was like maybe one of my least favorites. But everywhere you go in Bloodborne is just like stunning. And there's so much variety. Everywhere feels distinct. Everywhere you go is different enemies and like different items to find
Mhm.
and different like reasons, and the way it progresses to slowly build you up to some of those massive moments is insane. Like, I can say, because we've gotten there last time we played, when you first get to the abandoned workshop, after you've been at the fucking hunter's dream
Mhm,
all
mhm.
game, and you get to the abandoned
Yes.
workshop and you see the doll and you see what's been left behind there, the remnants, and it kind of, you get one of the umbilical cords, and it clicks in your mind like, what the hell is going on? Because
Yeah.
it wasn't simple to begin with, and now it's just kicked it into overdrive.
Right. That was an amazing moment. That was definitely something that sticks out, and I feel like in Bloodborne we talked about a lot of these other games having characters that are like, oh, I'll never forget the relationship between Joel and Ellie, or like the
Mhm.
crew in Persona. And Bloodborne, to me, like, the characters really are not very memorable. Like, of course there's some, everyone's gonna say like they know their characters, but really the world is the sticking feature for Bloodborne to
Yeah.
me. The hunter is unnamed, and there's lore around it. I'm sure, like Garamond, who's some other ones I'm sure could remember. But I mean, to me, it's like what sticks out is just the way that it works, and the like in the world itself. Like, everyone's stuck inside their house and it's like, oh, I can't come out. The beasts are coming, and like no one knows
Mhm.
who that lady in the house is, but everyone can tell you that there's like tons of people who will not go outside because they're gonna get murdered by these beasts which you're there to hunt, and it's like scary. You know, like
Yeah, it
there's some
genuinely is.
legitimately scary moments. Like I remember being in that forest area where it's like a
Oh,
very
yeah.
big maze and you kind of get lost for a little bit, and there's some like terrifying things that can happen to you in there. You don't come prepared.
Yeah, it's got the 3 pillars of FromSoft classic design. It's got the amazing story dripping atmosphere world. It's got the combat, which is second to none. Bloodborne is probably the most aggressive one, but you know what?
Mhm.
You have a gun to parry with, and that's fucking cool.
Agreed.
Uh, and also the trick weapons. Just a quick
Yeah,
mention of how cool those trick weapons are. Like, sure, there's less variety than in some of the other games, but I would say like they all feel way more distinct because they have those like 2 versions of
yeah.
each thing. So that's cool as shit. And the 3rd pillar is the wacky antics that Miyazaki puts you into. It's like, yeah, you go into the forest, and that's just a massive bundle of 32 snakes all tied together. Because, like, of fucking course it is. What else would be in here? And so it is just absurd, it's ridiculous, it hits hard. I will tell you the story when you spend hours poring over it and
Yeah,
you watch all the Vadi videos is incredible.
yeah. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. And
Um,
I mean,
but
I've watched some
it's
of them.
just
It is cool.
yeah, you just have to it's just a conscious thing that you need to, like,
Yeah,
study in a sense or, like, think about, right? And so when you're
totally.
into that kind of thing and it's like reading a great book at the same time as playing a game, that's amazing.
There you
And if
go.
you just
Yeah.
wanna slay some beasts,
Well, that's what I was there for, right? I
that's
like to
easy.
me, it's like I wish there would be the story was a little bit more accessible because I'm super
Yeah,
interested in it, but I also am not super interested in watching like 3 or 4 hours worth of video essays afterwards. Like,
yeah.
I would love it if they could do a little bit more to kind of give players like me who want to play the game and did play the game, but I couldn't tell you one piece of what happened in that
Mhm.
story from beginning to end other than like some cryptic words, and I'm not the type to be taking my magnifying glass and like zooming in on dudes' faces for 30 minutes. Like I just don't have the time for that, you know?
Yeah.
I just don't.
Yeah, that is,
Like
totally not
it's
something
kind
I
of
do
I
all the
mean,
time.
power to you, but I mean,
Yeah,
like
it's just a preference thing. I
yeah,
think it's just one of those things where it's like, especially with
exactly.
Elden Ring being as big as it is, it's good to remember that these are niche games. Like, they are,
Not
you
anymore.
know not anymore, I guess not, but, like, they kinda do what they wanna do, and they
Mhm.
don't care if that's something that everybody's interested in.
Yeah.
And sometimes that creates a little bit of an atmosphere where it's like, maybe some things could have been changed for the better. And sometimes that creates an
Mhm.
atmosphere being like, this is the best game ever made for some people. And
Absolutely.
like that sometimes comes at like the cost of everybody getting to enjoy it because it's just so specific and focused.
Well, that's the thing, right? And like to me, actually, like as much as I'm saying I don't understand the story of Bloodborne, I actually think that's really cool because
Mhm.
you don't need to understand the story to be able to play it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me if I really understand what the reasoning of the
It's
characters are.
it's
Like it's just
also
fun.
it's also ironically for Bloodborne very fitting because it's very much of like the idea that everything that's going on is so out of the realm of an average person's understanding
Mhm, mhm.
that like that is kind of what the story is centered around in a way is that like reality is messed up for certain reasons and like a hunter is a hunter even within a dream is one of the famous quotes, right? Because it's like, well, what's real, what's really happening? Like you go to the dream, you go out of the dream, like what is your relationship there? And like it raises so many questions and it's intentionally cryptic in the sense of like you're not really supposed to 100% be able to understand it because it's beyond, like, the human
Right,
capacity
right,
for, like,
right.
what we understand as reality, and so, like, you get really, like, weird and meta and all these, like, tangents, and I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
another thing I love is, like, the community will never fully agree on certain parts of the game
Mhm.
because it's there's enough to, like, state claims about certain aspects, but not definitive proof, and
Gotcha.
so I think that's really cool as a community aspect. And I'll just make one more note, and I promise then I'll stop gushing about
Hey,
Bloodborne.
we've had some good
But
discussions here for quite a
we
few
have,
games, so
but I love FromSoft's multiplayer functionality. I think it's such an underrated part of their games because you're in these really hostile, bleak environments, but they always have these online functions where you can leave notes for other
mhm.
players, and some of them are hilarious and some of them are helpful. And you can when you're near someone else who's playing, you'll see them as like a little phantom running through your game. And it just adds this sense of like camaraderie. Like we're against these insane, like untangible, like ridiculous otherworldly odds, and we're just this lowly little being, but, like, we're all doing the struggle together, and there's that, like, strength and solidarity kind of thing where,
Right.
like, we're all doing this, like, I can see that guy, like, and then he left a note saying, like, "We did it," after the end of a boss or something, and there's just this amazing sense of, like, the juxtaposition of being alone in a harsh world, but also knowing that you're working as a community,
Yeah.
and I think that is such a cool thing about those games that just is such a minor, unnecessary detail, but it's quintessential to playing a FromSoft game.
I agree with you, and something I'm experiencing with Elden Ring right now is the whole Phantom thing, because I played Bloodborne a few years
Mhm.
after release, so I didn't play it like,
Yeah,
obviously I saw some phantoms, but not to the same extent as when the
yeah.
game's new and there's like a huge burgeoning player base and all. So I think those are super cool mechanics as well. I think actually if I
Mhm.
was to take my favorite aspect of those games and introduce it, like I said, the every open world game should have the wind mechanic.
Mhm.
I think a lot of these type of games should have that, the ethereal people walking around and you can see what they're doing. I think that's like the coolest thing, right?
Yeah.
And you're right, it does make the world slightly less bleak, even though it's quite dark overall. Um, yeah, what a list! What a list! I mean, we could talk forever, like we
Oh,
said, but there is a lot of games to go over. We're nearly, I think, 2 hours in here, so
man.
let's recap the
Right.
list one more time for those listeners at home. From top to bottom, we can go. Kate, would you like the honors of reading the final definitive Circles and Squares combined top 25 list games of all time version 2?
It would be my honor, and I think last time we gave them all, like, random bullshit
Oh,
accolades
right.
at the very last
Oh, let's
second,
take
so
turns then. This will be fun.
we'll do that again. Okay, so, yeah, so um, I guess I'll start us off then, as you said. So we'll give number 25 goes to Cuphead for the best cartoon video game.
All right, number 24, Fire Emblem for the best critical hit animation.
Ooh, number 23, Bioshock for the best, twist.
Okay, ooh, debatable, but I mean, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Here,
Uh,
okay, best game of golf ever played then.
nice. Okay. Number 22, Persona 4 Golden for the representation of the PlayStation Vita.
Nice, nice. Number 21, Divinity Original Sin for the best couch co-op couples game.
Number 20, Portal, because cake is a lie.
Number 19, Shovel Knight for best, creative weapon.
Where are we at? Number 18, Sekiro for the hmm.
We should have done these in opposite order.
Well, no, I'll give it the FromSoft. It's for being FromSoft's most accessible game because the character has a prosthetic.
Right, right, we got the disability spectrum, nice. Number 7, Papers, Please for best accent created for a game.
All right, number 16, Apex Legends for the it won the battle royale that is this
It
list
did.
over other battle royales. So I guess I'll say the battle royale victor award.
Nice. Alright, we got number 15, Heavy Rain, and that is going to get the best, let's see, the best weather ever in a game.
Wow, ooh, oof. Ooh, God,
Oof.
not so good. Number, what are we at? Number 14, Spider-Man Miles Morales for the with great power comes great responsibility.
Wonderful. We got number 13, Ghost of Tsushima, which already won the best win mechanic. So we'll also give it the best pet your animal friends
All
as
right.
well.
Number 12, the Banner Saga 2 wins the award for most stressful choices.
That's probably not wrong. Number 11, Danganronpa 2 for best beach episode.
Where are we at? Number 10, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons for the Two Thumbs Award. I'll say no more.
Two thumbs. I like it. Number 9 is Returnal, and that is for the best. What do we got here? The best sci-fi gun award. Oh, the best melee award. The sword you get in
Okay,
that game is fucking cool. Best
nice.
melee.
Number 8, Detroit Become Human for the wow, AI is getting scary realistic award.
Followed up by number 7, Hollow Knight, and that is gonna get the best art award. Sorry, Persona.
Yikes, that's a ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay. Number 6, Hades for the Everyone Needs to Pet Cerberus award.
It's very true. We got number 5, Elden Ring. At the top of our actually, number 5 is important. So yeah,
Yes, it
top
is.
5 here. We got number 5, Elden Ring for the Best Tarnished Award.
Number 4, The Last of Us for the Comic Collection Award.
Yes, I missed at least one and it was tragic. We got number 3, God of War for the Best Bring Your Son to Work Day award.
I love it. I love it. Number 2, Persona 5 The Royal for the award you'll never see coming.
And to piggyback off of that, number 1, our combined top game is this year Bloodborne. And I will say that if you want to know the award to this game, your eyes need to be open.
Love it. There you go, guys. It's our top 25 best combined games of all time list, which I think I name differently every time I say it out loud because it's a bunch of ridiculous nonsense and purposely named very long and confusing. But yeah, we hope you've enjoyed deliberating this list. We would love to hear from you if you want to write into our email address, which is circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com, to let us know your top 25 games of all time and where you would rank the games that we have here. Because we love to see that kind of stuff. And if you want to write your list, we'll even read it on the show next time. So please write in. Of course, you can get in touch with us at a bunch of places, including Twitter @CNSPod. Where likely you'll have seen the tweet for this episode. So please respond and give us your list there as well if you're not inclined to email. Either way, thank you very much for listening. We know it's been a long episode. And we'll be back again later this week for probably a news section, followed by our regular episode next Monday, as we said at the top of the show. Once again, thank you everyone for listening. This has been a blast. I love doing these episodes. I know you do too, Kate. And until next time, see y'all later.